Audio is hovering at minus 12 decibels. We're go.
And now, here with an unlimited supply of misinformation is Mr. Know-It-All.
Right, I'm not allowed to use my body to smack my employees. I'm not allowed to use my body to sell drugs. There's a human in there. A human. The only thing that is different between men and women when it comes to this is that men don't have another human being inside their body unless they're Jeffrey Dahmer.
Welcome to the Young Turks, Cenk, Grant experience. Merry post-Christmas. We hope you had a lovely Christmas, filled with beautiful presents. Maybe we'll talk more about this in post-game, I should say, today. That's the last half hour of the show for Just for Members. I asked my son what religion he was. Yeah, we'll save it for the post-game. And he had a fascinating answer that I think you will love.
I will say though, I'm grateful that we're saying Merry Christmas now thanks to the Trumps.
Oh yeah, I mean if it wasn't for him and Bill O'Reilly, us heathens would be saying happy holidays, but we've been liberated. I think some people were like, I don't know if they made a hat out of it, but or just a Twitter thing like, make America Christmas again. I don't even know what that means.
Yep.
Anyway, so speaking of fun things for our members, next Monday is a special time. Normally Old School's not on Monday, but this upcoming Monday, we've got a special Old School for you guys with Gabriel Iglesias. Otherwise known as, to Fluffy. Fluffy's on, okay? So how cool is that? That's, members get to see that live. They're the only ones who get to see it live. They get to see the whole show. They're the only ones who get to see the whole show. So tyt.com/join to become a member. Get our post game today and every day. Get Gabriel on Old School. And then one more programming note, speaking of members, Hostmates gets released tomorrow night. It drops tomorrow at 8 o'clock Eastern. That's after the regular show. That's our second edition of Hostmates. Anna and I are reigning champions, but we'll see if we get to keep our title this year.
I actually have a fun note about Hostmates. So we will be watching along with you guys. We're not gonna stream along with you guys, but once it's available here at TYT, we're gonna have like a little internal party to watch. Oh. I know, it'll be fun. But what we will be doing is interacting with you guys via social media. So follow us on Twitter or Instagram. We'll be posting stories of us watching and reacting to it, so it'll be a good time.
All right, fun for everybody, and that's just for members, tyt.com/join. To become a member, you guys keep us afloat, so we appreciate that. All right, Anna, let's get started.
All right. As always, the media is giving credit to so-called moderate Republicans in the Senate because they have said that they might maybe disagree with Mitch McConnell a little bit when it comes to the impeachment trial in the Senate. The latest example is Alaska's Republican Senator Lisa Murkowski, who claims that she's very much dismayed at how McConnell is approaching the Senate trial. Take a look.
In fairness, when I heard that, I was disturbed. To me, it means that we have to take that step back from being hand in glove with the defense. And so I heard what Leader McConnell had said. I happen to think that that has further confused the process. For me to prejudge and say there's nothing there, or on the other hand, he should be impeached yesterday, that's wrong. In my view, that's wrong.
I don't know what it is about this particular story. Maybe it's because I'm fed up with the media preemptively giving Republicans credit for something they don't deserve. Like, words are words. I don't care about your words. I care about your actions. So it's one thing to be like, I don't know if I agree with the way McConnell is approaching this. And the way they cover it is, oh, strong words for McConnell. Oh, Murkowski shows that she's independent and she likes it. No, she's gonna do what McConnell wants her to do. She's gonna do what Trump wants her to do. Can we not give her credit until we see how she actually behaves when the Senate trial happens?
Yeah, so that's fair, and I actually want to add something to that, but let me give both sides here, because both sides do it. No, seriously.
No, both sides do it, but Democrats actually do cave to Republicans.
Yeah, which I'll get to in a second. But no, to be fair to Murkowski, on a couple of important votes, she has actually voted with the Democrats. Now, it is very rare, and when she's called a moderate throughout all the campaign or the overall coverage of politics, it's not really true. I mean, she votes with Trump an overwhelming percentage of the time. So I don't know if there's a categorization of like non-insane conservative, but she would be in that category, but on some important votes, okay? And remember, she got attacked by Republicans in her primary and then won as an independent. So, I mean, there's a lot of like nuance to Lisa Murkowski. Okay, now having said that, the non-nuanced part is what Anna said, which she overwhelmingly votes with Trump and the rest of the Republican Party, and is likely to do in this case. McConnell's going around bragging that he's not gonna lose a single Republican senator. Now, another important addition to what Anna is saying is oftentimes this is theater, but the media never covers it as theater. They go along with the kabuki theater. So what do I mean by that? McConnell will sometimes talk to people like Murkowski and say, I'm going to say for the sake of the Republican Party that I'm going to do everything Trump wants me to do. And that's what McConnell said, and that's why Murkowski's making these comments. He said, we're gonna work hand in glove with the Trump administration. There's gonna be no distance between me and Trump's lawyers. Now, the senators are supposed to be impartial, laugh along with me. But so when he says that, he does it brazenly and on purpose to show strength, to say, I don't care about rules, I don't care about fairness. All of us Republicans are with Trump no matter what. Don't primary us, Republican right-wingers. And media, we're showing you that there's no chance of acquittal here, so talk about him as if he's already innocent. These are the reasons why he does it. But the last reason is so that he can go tell Murkowski and Snowe and Gardner, some of the vulnerable Republicans, hey, you know what, you could speak out against me. Don't vote against me, but speak out against me when I say I'm gonna work 100% with Trump, so that way you will have the appearance of independence, and then you'll vote with us and everything will be fine, and you'll get credit ahead of time for appearing independent. So the fact that that conversation does happen on a regular basis, we don't know if it happened in this case, but happens on a regular basis, but the political reporters never cover it, is troubling.
Yes. So that's the reason why this story, which broke yesterday, really struck a nerve with me, because it happens over and over again. It happened with Jeff Flake, who's no longer in Congress, but he would say things in the media that made it appear as though he was an independent thinking Republican who was against Trump. But then when push came to shove, he gave Trump everything he wanted, including voting in favor of policies that he claimed were disastrous and he wasn't in favor of. Now, I wanna go to what Cenk was alluding to earlier, which is how the media gets played. Okay, these are the so-called journalists that get paid the big bucks to do their analysis and their reporting, but they get played by these Republicans and their ridiculous theater over and over again. And what I can't stand more than anything is politicians insulting our intelligence and then the media playing along with that. So let's take a look.
Despite President Trump's claims that Republicans are united in the impeachment fight, and they largely are, there are a handful of senators who may be making the White House and Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell nervous.
One Republican senator, Alaska's Lisa Murkowski, is expressing frustration.
One of them is Alaska's Republican Senator Lisa Murkowski.
Murkowski's remarks are significant.
Brianna, it is remarkable, and here's why.
A high-profile Republican is not in line with Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell.
House Republicans have been on the same page, but in an interview Tuesday, Alaska Senator Lisa Murkowski signaled a possible crack.
Today, she is now voicing concern about McConnell's vow.
Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell pledging total coordination with the White House, and that's not sitting well with at least one member of his own party.
It's pretty remarkable that she said anything really dinging him for this.
Senator Murkowski's remarks are the first sign so far of any dissent.
This is an important thing because it shows a little bit of a break here.
Why is Senator Murkowski's vote so important? She's disturbed by some of McConnell's comments.
There really hasn't been. It has seemed as though the Republican Party is completely unified, and this kind of steps away from that.
She says she'll have an open mind. Lisa Murkowski is a moderate Republican who doesn't always walk in lockstep with her party.
She is seen as one of three swing Republicans, and she embraces her image of independence.
She has not always voted with the party. She voted present instead of yes on Justice Brett Kavanaugh's confirmation.
She's a moderate who very memorably did not vote with the Republicans on Brett Kavanaugh's Supreme Court confirmation, you will recall.
Okay, so let's just recap that. Remarkable, significant, voicing concern, not sitting well, important thing.
Yeah.
Let's just wait. Let's just wait for a second.
So now let me tell you what percentage of time that Murkowski votes with Trump. Now look, most of the Republicans are over 90%, so I'm giving you that to be fair and to give you context. But Murkowski votes with Trump 74% of the time. So a moderate seems to indicate 50-50, right? No, not moderate, 74%. Yes, most other Republicans are worse, but 3/4 of the time, she's like rubber stamps Trump, awesome, wonderful, etc. Now, again, one more piece of context to be fair. Some Democrats, like Cuellar in Texas, vote with Trump 70% of the time. So Murkowski and Cuellar head to head. That's a great reason to vote for Jessica Cisneros, Cuellar's primary opponent, who's a Just Democrat. You can look her up at justdemocrats.com. But and then they'll call Cuellar moderate. He's not moderate. He's a massively conservative Democrat.
Right.
So anyway, you get the point. The point is that Murkowski almost always votes with, I just told you the percentage, with Trump. And so it would be very surprising if she voted to convict him in the Senate. And the last part of the theater, guys, is that sometimes they do that, and sometimes she does vote against Trump, but only when they know they're already going to win, and not necessarily when they're the deciding vote. Murkowski from time to time has, cast deciding votes, okay, but that is extremely rare. And a lot of times McConnell will release senators, Republican senators, who are in vulnerable seats to vote against them, but only if he knows he's already going to win.
Exactly, and look, that's the big difference, I think, between Republicans and Democrats in swing districts or swing states, people who are facing a tough reelection. Look, Democrats always make decisions from a place of deep fear, right? Let's just give Republicans what they want. Let's give the Republicans, because I don't want the Republicans to run against me and use this against me in my reelection campaign. Whereas Republicans, they'll do the theater, they know how to play the media, they do it perfectly, and then when push comes to shove, they give their party what the party wants, right? We don't have fighters in the Democratic side. So
in fact, quite the opposite. Just last thing here on the Democratic side, we go to Dick Durbin. He is the #2 Democrat in the Senate, and oftentimes the press paints him as someone who's liberal or progressive, etc. So Dick Durbin, on the other hand, is also criticizing the Democratic presidential contenders for saying that they're likely to vote to convict Donald Trump. Why are you attacking your own senators? Like, that doesn't make any sense. And it's one thing to say, I haven't seen enough evidence to convict him yet. it's another thing to say, like, it's outrageous to think that you've seen enough evidence to convict him. 55% of the country thinks that they've seen enough evidence to impeach and convict Donald Trump and throw him out of office. And we all have eyes and we all have ears. We saw the evidence. It's not like the House didn't already have their hearings. It's not like we didn't already see 17 witnesses. So it's not like it's a trial that has no information. A juror walks in out of the blue and is like, oh, well, I got to keep an open mind. I have no idea if he did it or not. I didn't see the witnesses yet. In this case, we've all already seen the witnesses. He definitely did it. So when Durbin goes and turns around and hits Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren for saying they're likely to convict, he's helping the Republicans. See, this is why we have asymmetrical situation here in politics in America, where the Republicans are over the top strong and Democrats are over the top or under the bottom weak. I don't know what phrase you want to use, but oftentimes pathetically weak. Again, Durbin saying we will not, this is another separate quote, we will not whip this vote, meaning we will not put pressure on Democrats to convict Trump. Why not? He's the guy who's supposed to whip the vote, who's supposed to actually put pressure on fellow Democrats to vote their way. And Durbin's like, I'm not gonna do that. I mean, we're gonna let them vote their conscience. In other words, we're already telling Manchin and Doug Jones and Kyrsten Sinema and anyone else, yeah, sure, vote against us, who cares? It'll actually, and the Republicans are already bragging about it. The Republicans are like, oh yeah, we're gonna get Democrats to vote for this, and it's gonna be a bipartisan acquittal. And Durbin's like, yeah, you should do that, go ahead, I'm encouraging you. He's the number 2 senator on the Democratic side. And this is why Democrats lose and they suck at this game. And it's because they pretty much throw the game ahead of time.
Well, let's move on to public opinion when it comes to impeachment and removal, because there is a poll that's really standing out, and it has to do with the majority of Americans supporting the removal of Donald Trump. So, over the holiday break, a new poll indicated that a majority of Americans not only support the impeachment of Donald Trump, they also support the removal of Trump during the Senate trial. So to give you the details on this poll, which was done by MSN, 55% of those asked said they were in favor of the US president's conviction by the Senate, a figure which has shot up from 48% the week before. Meanwhile, the number of people against Trump's removal has dropped to an all-time low, according to the MSN poll. On Christmas Day, 40% were opposed to the Senate voting to convict the president. I want to be clear that this is one poll. There have been other polls that are concerning for me, including some that indicate that Trump has experienced a rise in his approval rating. I don't know if that's because of what's happening with the impeachment investigation, but you would expect that if the majority of Americans are in favor of removing him, then his approval rating wouldn't increase. But let me give you more. The gap between the two views has become much wider since last week, when there was little to no divide then. So it was 48% in favor of Trump's removal, 47% against. So as you can see, the number has moved up considerably when it comes to wanting to remove Donald Trump.
I think I have an explanation. But before we get to that, 55 to 40 is unreal. The press has this weird relationship with Donald Trump. Do they criticize him? Yes. Do they call out some of his fabrications? Yes, they do, okay? But having said that, they have this weird awe and respect of him. They're like, oh, Donald Trump, he's some sort of titan that no matter what happens, he's still popular. But he's not. If any other president had a poll where 55% of the country wants to impeach him and remove him from office, the press would savage them as not just unpopular, but weak. Imagine if Jimmy Carter had a poll like that. I mean, they absolutely destroyed Jimmy Carter with no such poll, right? In fact, Jimmy Carter was, for most of his presidency, popular. He was but the pressers are like, oh, Donald Trump, he could beat anybody. Oh my God, how could Elizabeth Warren possibly beat Donald Trump? Oh my God, there was a thing about Native American, oh, Donald Trump. The guy, 55% of the country says kick his ass out. We hate the guy. We hate him, kick his ass out. Remove him from office today, not in the election. Impeach it and convict. And yet the press is like, oh, Donald Trump. He's a loser, for God's sake, be clear about it. Call him weak, that's what he is, but they never do that. They only do that for Democrats, they never do it for Republicans. All right, now, why the big movement? Here, look, I love this talking point being put out And if I was biased and I wasn't doing my job honestly, I'd tell you this is it and I'd be ecstatic about it. David Rothschild, who is referencing the polling, said, this polling is a clear sign that Republican policy of complete obstruction is not selling well to the voting public. I wish that were true. If that's true, that's great, because then the Republicans might stop obstructing, they might put some witnesses up, etc. Honestly, I don't think that's it. Because they've been obstructing from day one, and the poll was 48-47 last week. So what changed last week? Well, two things changed. I think one is more important than the other. One was how we went after John Dingell and said he might be in hell, okay? Now, a lot of the media gave him very negative attention to that, okay, including conservatives. But the second one I think is even larger. It was a Christianity Today post saying, if you're a real evangelical, this guy's clearly immoral. And I said at the time, that's a giant difference maker because it bursts their bubble. It goes into the bubble of the people who think Trump is right about everything. And within the bubble, it says, no, guys, you're not the one who took the crazy pill. If you think he looks and acts totally immoral, you're right. And so it was like a big moment, like for a lot of people in that circle to go, yeah, right? No, we're not supposed to be for the guy who cheats on his wife with porn stars while they're pregnant. We're not supposed to be for this guy who's a liar and a cheat, right? Which we all know he's a liar and a cheat and a fraud, right?
Well, it does break the cycle of groupthink. Because remember, your political ideology, and especially if you're deep into politics, it turns into a community issue, right? If your political views and the community that you're part of that holds the same political views, you want to be part of that family, you want to be part of that community, and speaking out against it, that takes a lot of courage because you could be rejected by your community. So to have someone part of your community speak out against Trump kind of warrants you to be a little more independent thinking when it comes to Trump.
Yeah, so those two events had a bigger impact. One, because it went to his base, and that's why the numbers moved. Because you couldn't move the numbers past his base, but now you're moving into his base because they didn't like that talk about how a US congressman might be in hell after he passed away earlier this year and his wife is grieving and he attacked his wife that way. That's a little bit of a religious thing. And then Christianity Today coming in, well, that made it a twofer right away. And in both of those cases, Republicans, not all Republicans, but some Republicans came out and said, yeah, that's true, right? Especially in the Dingell case. So that's why the numbers moved. So I think when they look back at Trump's presidency, I think the two most underrated events that hurt his popularity was withdrawing from northern Syria and abandoning the Kurds. That's number one. And I think the Christianity Today post is much bigger than people realize because it got coverage everywhere, including inside his own bubble. And so that's why the numbers have moved. And guys, 55-40, that's a 15-point difference on not just a slight issue, not how is he doing on healthcare or trade, and these are big issues overall. Not on, I mean, this is on impeach and remove from office, and it's a 15-point gulf. He's in massive, massive trouble. The media needs to start acting like it. The Democratic Party starts to act like it. And look, if the Republican Party doesn't want to acknowledge it, great, you vote with him and risk your careers. But the Democrats have to pounce on that and make them pay the price. That's where oftentimes things fall short.
When we come back from the break, we have some internal Fox News emails, and it has to do with gaining access to Trump administration officials. You don't want to miss that story and more when we return.
Welcome to the Happy Hour, everybody. After a week of soul-crushing news, we break out the good stuff. Good news, good videos, good people, and of course, drink good alcohol. That's the worst thing I've ever had.
This is the best show.
Full disclosure, we did do a shot right before the show began. It says, let's flamingo.
Flamingo.
The reason you had trouble with that word is it's not a word.
Okay.
This is the one of everything.
I've got a rash. Could I just put it on that to see if it'll take it off?
What did you used to think this was?
Bull piss.
Drink it, swallow it,
No.
spit it. Oh, that's needed after a day like this. Cheers to Brett Ehrlich. Climax.
Uranus smells like farts
Because of course it does. This is the worst sketch ever of a perp. But guess what, ladies and gentlemen? They found the guy. This is Sophie's super happy dog story of the week.
This dog is so precious and deserves the world. I'm just not drinking that beer.
Here's my dog. This is Onyx.
Yeah, I would just say that he's exotic because he's not your traditional dog. Still 12 out of 10 because they're all good.
Well, if that made you happy, just wait till you see the best thing ever of the week. There is a woman who moves like a horse.
Why do I want to go home and like try this?
We're actually going to show you the running butthole challenge right now. What's happening?
No, that's just wrong. Every way.
And we'll see you next time.
The Monsanto Corporation continues to sell an herbicide called Roundup. You should know that recent studies have linked this commercial herbicide to a significant increase in non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. A diagnosis of this type of cancer can be devastating to you and your family, while Monsanto continues to profit from these sales. If you or a loved one were exposed to Roundup at work or at home and then developed non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, you might be entitled to financial compensation, and you have a right to take action now.
We're very honest that we're progressives. We call the Young Turks home of progressives, and we support progressive candidates.
There has been this reemergence of political activism, especially among young people.
This weekend was the second Women's March, both across the US and across the world. So these people are not simply marching, they're not simply talking, they're also running for office. And when they do run, they're gonna make a difference.
Joe Crowley is congressman from New York. He's very powerful. Why? He raised a lot of money. But there's someone finally challenging him.
We need to have representation that advocates as fiercely for working class people as possible from this seat.
If candidates like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez even get a little bit of media attention outside of what the Young Turks does, they have an excellent chance of winning. She's gonna win. She's gonna win.
68% reporting.
The majority of Americans want Medicare for all. So I don't care what you and your corporate cronies want. What I care about is what the American people want.
We believe in total change. Everything runs on donor money. And that is what we will fight. And that is exactly why they don't like us.
We're having fun. It's election night.
Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez has defeated Joe Crowley.
Here we go again.
Ladies and gentlemen, we got him.
Down goes Crowley. Down goes Crowley. Down goes Manafort. Down goes Cohen. Populist left wing with a gigantic victory in Mexico.
Senator Gillibrand, you have made a pledge to no longer accept corporate PAC money.
Women came out in record numbers in the primaries. They said you'll be lucky to get one candidate. We now have 12 that have won their primaries. Bezos and Amazon announcing that they are going to go to a 15-hour minimum wage.
We're making progress. Let's keep going.
Many of these women made history.
The biggest victories, all women of color. Rashida Tlaib and Ilhan Omar, Sharice Davids and Deb Haaland. For a long time, we have not had progressives in power. It's going to be something to behold. All right, back on the Young Turks. Let me read some member comments first. 100 decibels of booing writes in. Guess I heard wrong when I thought you weren't having a show today. It's like it's still Christmas. Well, that's very sweet of you. Thank you for saying that. I will take 100 decibels of cheering, I suppose. And by the way, if you guys are members, you also got shows the last 2 days. So make sure you check that out, tyt.com/join. We shot shows ahead of time for you guys. Okay, and then Sohalia writes in, Democrats cave into Republicans because they hold fundraising in the billionaire's wine cave. And that is largely the reason why, that is right. Now I'm gonna go to a YouTube super chat. What the writes in, first super chat and first time watching in my new TYT hoodie I got from my wife.
Yes.
Hashtag Bernie 2020, all right, thank you.
Pocket in a pocket.
Thank you for going to shoptyt.com. You guys can still do that, pocket in a pocket. And thank you for using YouTube Super Chat. Last one, Craig Reeves says, remember, white evangelicals supported Trump. It's a good point. I often say just evangelicals, but in fact, it's white evangelicals in specific that were overwhelmingly in favor of Donald Trump. That's just a fact. Okay, now, last thing that I want to tell you guys about before we head back into the stories is the affiliate program that we're doing. Speaking of Christmas, we hope that it's a gift for you guys as well. So this is where you guys sell Young Turks membership. It helps maintain this show and this entire network, and you also get a commission. So, and it's not commission in like hugs and adoration, it's actually money. Okay, so go to tyt.com/win-win, and we want to do a drive soon where we get as many affiliates as we possibly can to at least try the program. It's a free account. You can begin sharing with everyone as soon as you get your link. It's super simple, and so far we have 228 affiliates. Okay, so become a TYT affiliate today, sell membership, and get commission. tyt.com/win-win. Thank you guys. All right, Anna, what's next?
All right. Oftentimes, when critiquing the media, the topic of access to politicians comes up. And recently, The Hollywood Reporter gained access to some internal emails with Fox News. And it determined that, yeah, they're very much concerned about access to Trump administration officials, including Steve Mnuchin. Now, interestingly enough, they backstab one another between shows within the network in order to gain access to these politicians. And I want to give you a few examples. So in April of 2017, a producer for Lou Dobbs's Fox Business Network program played up the show's ratings advantage over Maria Bartiromo's morning show when trying to land an interview with Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin. So here's what the email read, and this is written by the producer. Secretary Mnuchin, next week, you think? The producer said in an email to Mnuchin's spokesperson. He's doing Maria Bartiromo, you know, much lower ratings than us. And I say that in an endearing way.
No, you don't. Nope, not at all endearing. Just trying to S-talk her, if you will. So he comes on your show instead. Let's just be honest.
It's incredible. I mean, okay, so let me give you more. In June of 2017, the producer wrote back, "My dearest Tony."
I already love this.
No, okay, let's stop for a second. My first role here at TYT, this is, this is after my temporary position filling in for JR was up and I really wanted to stay here. And you're like, you want to be the guest booker in addition to doing like marketing or whatever. And I never wrote an email like that in my life. My dearest Tony, my dearest so-and-so. Like it's condescending.
I almost thought they were gonna write, my beloved.
Okay, let me give you more.
I'm sorry, that's reserved for Kim Jong-un.
We fell in love. All right, my dearest Tony, I see Mnuchin is doing Varney tomorrow. I am hurt.
Just when you thought it couldn't get any better. I am hurt, my dearest. How have you betrayed me? I thought we were betrothed. And there you are on another Fox program.
I am hurt. I really, really need him for Lou. She then added, thank God. I just asked someone from Stuart Varney's show and they said he won't be doing their show. That's great news. This is some shady stuff, man.
Yeah.
Can you imagine if I wrote an email like that to like the spokesperson or the assistant for whoever, like let's say Obama, I'm just throwing a name out there. Like I want Obama on No Filter, but then I hear that Obama agreed to do the damage report, right?
No, I love that idea.
And I'm like, oh, my dearest so-and-so, I am disturbed that you would allow Obama on the damage report. This damages their reputation, disgusting. All right, by the way, Damage Report's a great show, you should watch it.
Okay, no, I was gonna do something similar. Like Nina Turner, you is already booked on Damage Report. You undercut John with, do you know my view count is higher than Damage Report? Please.
It's so shady.
So my betrothed, please come on my show instead.
Okay, there's an important commentary here when it comes to access to politicians. We've talked about it before, we'll talk about it again. But I will say that this shows me how different TYT is from almost any other so-called newsroom, right? Because we genuinely like each other. Like John's my legitimate friend. I did a toast for his wedding.
Yeah.
I can't ever imagine like sniping him like that behind the scenes.
When I was at MSNBC, people were super competitive. Like I had a producer warn me when I was getting great ratings as a fill-in host, be careful, people are gonna be out for your head.
Oh my God.
I'm like, why? I'm doing great. He's like, what kind of a sucker are you? What do you mean why I'm doing great? Because you're doing great. And he told me that other hosts don't want fill-ins who do better than them. Which almost never happens. But if you do better than them in the ratings, when they're out, they're like, no, I'm done with that guy, no way. That's embarrassing.
Look, I get that. I get like the human instinct, because if you have a fill-in that's better than you, right? And somehow like the ratings skyrocket when you're on vacation and a fill-in comes in, well then your job is really gonna be jeopardized there, right? But within a company where you're talking about 2 full-time hosts, 2 full-time shows, you want that network to succeed. It's not gonna succeed with one well-performing show.
They don't care about it. All they care about is themselves. But I mean, like the idea that you would have someone fill in for you and then take over a show, like, wait a minute. See, folks I know I seem to have an ego. For good reason, sometimes you'll think. But if you don't, you're happy when other people succeed. I know it seems crazy to TV people, right? But it is possible that, especially if you agree and you want to actually empower people, it's wonderful when they succeed and they're part of your same network.
Let me give you some more of these emails. By the way, this is all like fighting for Steve Mnuchin, which I can't imagine. I wouldn't fight for Steve Mnuchin if my life depended. I wouldn't even fight for my own life to get Steve Mnuchin on the show. Like I'd be like, all right, well just take me, I'm done. Okay, it's over. All right, let me give you more. A few months later, a different Fox Business Network producer requested that Mnuchin appear on Bartiromo's show. During a discussion of when to schedule the interview, the producer said, as long as he is not on CNBC or another Fox Business Network program, please. Okay.
By the way, just look, legit reason why they care so much is not just the exclusive because people think, oh my God, Mnuchin's on, I got to turn on to Fox Business. A sentence that has never been spoken in the English language.
Never.
It's because then the clips that come out of that interview get covered by the rest of the press. But if you're the second one to do the interview, you get a lot less coverage. The first person to do the interview gets all the coverage for the rest of the media, which might then help your ratings later. So that's the phenomenon, just giving you the context.
And then Bret Baier got involved in one of these instances. So in the fall of 2017, a planned interview with Mnuchin on Bret Baier's weekday Fox News show was scrapped after his production team learned that Mnuchin would also appear 2 days earlier, not even on the same day, 2 days earlier on Chris Wallace's Sunday morning show. We would really like to have some sort of exclusivity with our interview, Baier's booker wrote. And then eventually Baier himself sent an email. And this is what he said. Okay, we assumed you knew that a major Sunday show interview or 2 days before a sit down with me would take a little of the steam off the booking. We would love to have the secretary on, but maybe later in September now. So like that kind of goes to what you were saying, Cenk. You want to make sure that someone doesn't steal all your thunder before you have your sit down interview with a Trump administration official or any politician for that matter. But I think the important lesson to take away from this is think about what this signals to a person in a position of power, right? When you have so-called journalists fighting for you. If they're fighting for you, then you have leverage and you're able to reject people if they critique you even a little bit, or if they say something hard-hitting about the Trump administration, something honest or truthful about the Trump administration. You're far less likely to grant that particular show an interview if you know that they've been critical, because you get to take your pick, right? It's like a buffet of friendly media outlets and shows that you can choose from. So why go with someone who's gonna be critical?
In fact, that might partly explain why Lou Dobbs is so over the top. The other day he said that Trump might be receiving accolades for centuries from here, right? Jesus. Like, and it was so over the top. It's literally sounded North Korean. And they're this close to saying he has no anus. Okay, and so there isn't anything that Lou Dobbs couldn't take and make into like reverence for the dear leader Donald Trump. It's so overwhelmingly over the top. Part of it is he wants to get an audience. Partly he's lost his mind. But the third reason is access. Because if he can kiss Trump's ass harder and longer than Bartiromo, then he's gonna get access to more guests from the Trump administration than Bartiromo is. So that's how this game is played.
Yeah.
Now, to be fair to them, they actually do have access. Whereas, and with the stuff that's said on their shows does get covered widely. And that's an advantage that TV has, which drives them to this level of competitiveness. Here, a guest could say anything, unless it's like damaging to progressives, it'll never be covered. right? I'm just keeping it real. So it doesn't really matter if they say it on No Filter or Damage Report or Secular Talk or Young Turks, etc. I remember Mel Brooks once stopped in, this was a million years ago, and broke huge news on our show. Young Frankenstein was gonna go to Broadway. At that time, he was super hot on Broadway, and he's Mel Brooks, he's a legend, and it was like a big deal. We told all the press, oh my God, Mel Brooks said on the air, and here's the tape of him saying he's gonna bring Young Frankenstein. No one ran the story. 2 weeks later, he told the New York Times or something, and the coverage exploded. And every outlet covered it like, oh my God, Mel Brooks is bringing Young Frankenstein to Broadway. But dude, we sent you a video of him saying where you could see it was him saying it, and you're like, oh, it doesn't count. It's just, the mainstream media is so weird.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like they didn't really have any taste for you from the very beginning.
No, they view people with power already and money as legitimate. Anyone who is not already incredibly wealthy or incredibly powerful, the mainstream media views as illegitimate, and it affects all of their coverage. So, yeah.
It's interesting because it really depends on, if you're in the media, it really depends on what your objective is. Because if your objective in the media is to get these big names on your show so you can make news, so other news outlets, applaud you or run some sort of coverage of your interview, then yeah, you're going to go out of your way to not really do your job, just do things to attract those people onto your program because it's really ego driven, like you want that attention. But really the whole point of getting people on your program is to have interesting conversations that your audience can benefit from. Your audience is supposed to have something to take away from that conversation. But a lot of these big wig, hotshot people in cable news and the mainstream media don't care about that at all. It's all about their own egos and getting media attention. Who cares
100%.
About that?
Like the idea that they would care about their audience is hilarious. Part and parcel of those promises to gain that access is, don't worry, you won't get any tough questions here. Our audience will not get to find out the whole truth about you. We'll cover it up and make you seem better than you actually are. And that's obviously the #1 problem with this craven desire to get access to officials. It's just being friendly with folks and getting them on your show is not a big deal unless you're tilting your coverage. And you could see clear as day from Fox News and Fox Business. It is as tilted as it could possibly be. And now you see from the internal emails that they pretty much promised that. And one last thing, the Mel Brooks story and how we got him on the Young Turks like 12, 14 years ago is a super fun story. And there's a Young Turks host who's really good friends with Mel Brooks. Although those two stories are different. I want to tell that in the post game, okay?
Okay.
So tyt.com/join to become a member and get all of our fun post games where we also dish about other inside baseball about the media and how it works too. So check it out. It's great for members, and members make this show happen. Thank you guys.
All right, we got to take a quick break, but when we come back, there is some evidence that the FBI is looking into some of the pardons that former Kentucky Governor Matt Bevin has granted. So we'll give you the details on that and more.
People work hard for what they have, and if you want more, you gotta do it yourself.
Stock stories bring headlines to life in an instant, whether you work on Wall Street or in Wichita. Stock report cards and professional analyst buy and sell ratings help gut check your thought process. Buy stock, take profits, and manage risk. And the Idea Feed is your daily one-stop investment shop with videos that unpack today's money-moving headlines in under 3 minutes, because you need ideas, not lectures, and live in-app chat from when you want to talk to someone, but you don't actually want to talk.
So what'd you think?
With unlimited commission-free stock trades and great ideas from real traders. Visit doe.com/TYT.
People still don't know what the word feminist actually means. Not even that, people are still angered by the word.
People think feminist is a bad word, but it's not.
There are gradations, there are different ways. The people who are against gender equality love to use like militant feminists as the representatives of all feminists. It's untrue.
I don't know why you'd be threatened by strong women unless you were an incredibly weak man. If you don't have equal rights, or you're not treated the same way, well, wouldn't you be angry?
The Monsanto Corporation continues to sell a herbicide called Roundup, but you should know that that herbicide is a potential killer. Recent studies have linked Roundup to significant increases in non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. That's a cancer that can be devastating to you and the people you love. While Roundup continues to cause cancer, Monsanto continues to make huge profits from the sale of Roundup. They will not take it off the market. If you or a loved one are exposed to Roundup at work or home and then developed non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, you may be entitled to financial compensation, and it's important for you to take action now and hold Monsanto accountable.
Cenk Uygur is not here today, which means that I will be able to talk during the show. No,
We'll see.
Poor Cenk, under the bus.
My God, if Jesus came back, how much would the Republicans hate him? Now you have to give away all of your possessions to the poor. Steve King would be like, oh, Weezy.
Cenk is oddly, scarily competitive.
Oh, it's insane. I play basketball against him. It's just like, how are you good at this?
The liberal mom says, Mark Thompson, have you ever thought about doing one of those tapes that soothe people to sleep? Like Mark Thompson reads the phone book. I'd buy it.
If you'll buy it, I'll do it.
Emilio D'Amelio writes in, John, you are so thick. I love you. That's what he wrote.
Pork Chop Express writes in and says John Idarola needs a new jacket.
Whoa.
Those 24-inch pythons are about to burst out of his sleeve.
Gun, baby. You know, the two people here said that their moms were both in love with you over Beauty and the Beast.
Mm-hmm. That's an improvement. I usually get grandmothers.
The Hour of Fire is brought to you by Brooke, and Brooke.
Yes, Brooke's got it.
Okay.
Take it.
All
you
right.
guys know I really like compliments.
Charlie Turk.
No, wait a minute, don't you dare.
Chemical castration when we return from the break.
Right, so that's it. We will settle it.
I want to see this.
Did Anna comment on my tan yet? No, she hasn't. Scandal at TYT.
You're a good boss.
But Anna did say that I come in here today with a fresh mind. That's all I'm about. I'm about a fresh mind.
I can't with you right now. Okay?
She just can't. She can't, but nonetheless, we have to for another 3 hours. I'm back, baby. Let's rip in the Republicans. See, don't miss the live show.
That's great.
Tell people, if you're a member, you get the whole live show whenever you want, because this stuff doesn't go into any of the clips. All right, back on the Young Turks. Eclectic Miss Chilenia writes, and journalists are supposed to speak truth to power. Sounds like Fox News hosts speak lies and cower. Ooh,
I like that rhyme.
Yeah.
Poetic.
That's right. Okay, speaking of journalists, I'm gonna come back to your comments in a second, which are more about journalism. We got good news for you. We're hiring a journalist to cover climate change and money in politics' effect on it in specific. So we're almost there. We just need to get to $200,000. If we can do that by the end of the year, that would be amazing. TYT.com/climate. I love this because every time there's a vote, we're gonna see who donated to which politicians, how are they voting, and we're gonna hold them accountable. And we're gonna get it to the rest of the press, and we're gonna get it all over social media. Because it isn't that not enough people agree with us. 3/4 of the country believes climate change is real and we have to do something about it. The problem is the politicians that take money from fossil fuel companies. And that's what we're gonna expose with your help. So TYT.com/climate for that. All right, more on that. Sohalia says, I would love for TYT to be the first in covering Mnuchin going to jail for his crimes, putting families in the streets. Unfortunately, the Democrats didn't do that. And the Republicans haven't done that, but I would love to cover that. That would be amazing. Emanimal writes in, journalists have lost their way. They used to comfort the afflicted and afflict the comfortable. Now they seem to do just the opposite. It really is overwhelmingly true and really disgusting. And don't get me wrong, journalism as a profession should be something that's wonderful. And there are amazing journalists all over the world that risk their lives reporting things that Putin has done, Duterte has done, and a lot of them lose their lives, and in war zones, etc.
I know that there are some people who disagree with Glenn Greenwald on like the Russia investigation, all that stuff, but Glenn Greenwald consistently does excellent journalism, and he has risked his own life to cover Jair Bolsonaro.
Yeah,
fairly.
So there's wonderful journalists in the world, including a person who broke a story we're gonna get to in a little bit. But unfortunately, in the establishment media, in order to get hired and promoted and not fired, you have to toe the line. And the line is, politicians are awesome, the elite and the powerful are awesome. Anyone who challenges them is a radical and is illegitimate. Anyway, last one is from Twitter. Stephen Payne says, we know Trump has an anus. It's in the middle of his face.
100%.
Okay.
A lot of poop comes out of there.
I'm gonna leave it at that.
I used an okay word, okay? That's
okay, all right.
Not banned. All right, you ready for more?
Sure.
Okay. The FBI is looking into the pardons that Matt Bevin, the former Kentucky governor, has granted. And he granted these pardons right before his governorship was up. As we all know, he lost his re-election bid. And what we know is that a state representative has disclosed that the FBI has reached out to him. And here's what he has to say. State Representative Chris Harris told reporters that a criminal investigator contacted him last week and asked what he knew about Bevin's pardons. Now, I want to be clear about something for those who maybe haven't followed this story from the beginning. Matt Bevin didn't pardon non-violent offenders, maybe people who were caught with possession of marijuana. Now, in that case, those pardons would be completely fine. That's something that we're very supportive of because non-violent individuals who had possession of drugs do not belong behind bars. What he did do was pardon convicted felons who were convicted of violent crimes, things like homicide and rape. Let me give you more. Harris did not elaborate on what questions were asked by this investigator, and he declined to say which law enforcement agency contacted him. But here's what he did say. I can confirm that I have been contacted by someone looking into the pardons that were issued by Governor Bevin on his way out the door. The impression I got is there was an investigation ramping up. It may be a formal investigation or it may not be a formal investigation, Harris told the Courier-Journal. It may be just calling to see if there's anything there to warrant a full investigation. I can tell you, at least, there are questions being asked. Now, two sources with knowledge of the inquiry told the Courier-Journal on Monday that an FBI agent had spoken with Harris. An FBI spokeswoman declined to comment, saying the agency could neither confirm nor deny the existence of said investigation when reached late Monday night. So just to go back and give you specific examples of the type of people Bevin pardoned, the Courier-Journal reported that Patrick Baker's brother held a campaign. Patrick Baker was one of the people that was pardoned. He was convicted of homicide. His brother actually held a campaign fundraiser at his home for Bevin in July of 2018 that raised $21,500. The former governor also received a letter from business executive Terry Forch, one of the state's Republican mega donors, urging Bevin to pardon Baker.
Okay, guys, so we talked about this on Friday, but that's a really important development about Forched. So that information was not available to us at that time. And so now the Courier-Journal in Kentucky is reporting that there's actually over 650 people that he has pardoned or commuted the sentence of. And one of my theories on Friday was that part of the reason he pardoned so many people is to hide the donors that he pardoned in the middle. And so some of the pardons are so heinous, as we're gonna get to in a second, that it kind of distracts you from the Baker pardon. And Baker is a guy who committed murder and tampered with evidence, impersonated a police officer, and did a robbery. And this is not a pardon of a guy from, he did it back in '87 or something. No, he did it in 2017, 2 years ago. And so his family is very well connected, gives what I call legalized bribes to Bevin. Now, the media oftentimes says, no, those are not bribes. In fact, every time they say, no, those are legitimate campaign contributions. Well, when these guys give him $21,500 and then they say, hey, wouldn't it be great if our brother was out of prison? And then all of a sudden his brother comes out of prison. What the hell do you call that? That is a bribe. And by the way, it's a bribe when these guys do it. It's also a bribe when ExxonMobil does it, when Pfizer does it, when any company does it. It's obviously a bribe. But Forched is a super important development because he has given at least $2.8 million to state and national political causes over the last 40 years, including more than $100,000 to Bevin's campaign and inauguration fund. So it's not just the $21,000. It's Forged, who is a mega donor. When a mega donor calls you and he's bribed the party to the tune of $2.8 million, you're gonna do what he says. It doesn't matter how heinous, doesn't matter how awful. You will do as you're told. These politicians are not leaders, they're followers. They're water boys, they're errand boys for the rich and for multinational corporations. Yep. So when Forge says jump, Bevin says, how high? And how many killers do you need me to pardon? Because I'm here to serve you. And that's exactly what happened here.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And as I mentioned earlier, some of the convictions were for rapists, child rapists. And recently, Bevin was asked to explain his reasons for pardoning people like that, and he's gonna explain why in the clip that we're about to show you. But look, before we go to it, I have to say, it was disturbing for me to listen to, so I wanna give you a fair warning before we go to it.
And the guy is Miko Shodel, and he raped a 9-year-old girl. Okay, and now you'll see, Bevin calls us speculative or whatever, you'll see the exact words he used in a second. Remember, he was convicted. It's not at all speculative, he was convicted. Now let's listen to Bevin talk about it.
A child rapist, though, that is the lowest form of human life.
Absolute scum of the earth. For people who have raped children, anybody who volitionally assaults another person, and any kind of a sexual assault in particular, and especially on a child, to me is reprehensible. To assume, however, that everybody who has ever been accused of this and even convicted of this has in fact done this is a big assumption to make. It really is. This was the second one. This is a guy named Micah Scodely I don't even know how to pronounce his last name. Let me tell you about this fellow. He was accused of sexually assaulting repeatedly for over the course of almost 2 years, well over a year, every single Wednesday, I believe it was, repeatedly sexually assaulting her and her sister, this girl claimed. She said that every week he came in and sexually assaulted me and my sister. Well, the sister, who was in the same room every time, denied all of it. These girls both were examined medically. They were examined physically. There was zero evidence, zero. Both their hymens were intact. This is perhaps more specific than people would want, but trust me, if you have been repeatedly sexually violated as a small child by an adult, there are going to be repercussions of that physically and medically. There was zero evidence of that.
Jesus Christ. Okay, other than being monstrous, he's of course wrong, as we pointed out on Friday. Only 2.1% of subjects examined had visible lesions on the hymen in a survey of pediatric child abuse rape cases. So 98% of the time the hymen is intact. And this guy's like, what? Her hymen was intact, it's fine. And after the guy was already convicted, the first case he was talking about was a 15-year-old that was raped so brutally that the child had internal injuries. And they took pictures of it and put it on social media. And he did the pardon anyway.
Jeez.
So I don't know if he's some sort of sadist.
He's disgusting. Yeah. I mean, oh God, lowest of the low, scum of the earth, really, right? Where that money for your campaigns was way more important than actual human lives, and hundreds and hundreds of pardons, right? Because he believes that these were, well, this is the excuse he's giving, that they were wrongful convictions. If he genuinely thought that, wouldn't that, light a fire under him? Wouldn't he want to do something about the justice system if it's that wrong that often?
Yeah. Well, so I don't know that he picked those cases because he's a particularly brutal and sadist guy, or maybe it's or to kind of distract people from the one he got bribed on. Oh my God, everybody's talking about the 9-year-old and the 15-year-old, and maybe not talking enough about the guy whose family did the fundraising for him. Now look, I love that the FBI might be investigating this, but if we're being honest, what are they investigating? In this country, it's legal to bribe politicians. It's called campaign contributions. There's not a goddamn thing you could do about it. The Supreme Court says that murderer's family was just talking to Bevin. And when Forged gave $2.8 million to the Republicans and $100,000 to Bevin, he was just using his freedom of speech to talk to Bevin. That's what the Supreme Court says. Mitch McConnell from the state of Kentucky, same state, is the biggest defender of that. He says, no. When multinational corporations and rich donors give us millions of dollars, they're just talking to us. And they have a right to talk to us. So it is legal in this country to bribe politicians that way. I know it seems shocking, but it's absolutely true. So I don't know what in the world they would be investigating. So the problem isn't that it's illegal. The problem is that it's legal. So that's why I tell you guys about Wolfpack all the time, wolf-pack.com. Because if you don't get the money out of politics, what the hell are we doing? I know other groups that care about money in politics, and they mean well, but they say things like, well, we're gonna take action when there's a big scandal. The whole thing's a scandal. And now, can you get a bigger scandal than this? To let murderers and child rapists go because of campaign contributions? And what are we doing about it? What are we doing about it? What is the Republican Party doing? They're celebrating it. Right. They're celebrating this bribery. No ands, ifs, or buts. If you're a media person and you say that the Republicans don't celebrate these legalized bribes, you're a liar. You're an absolute liar. Mitch McConnell and the Republican Party love this system where you could give unlimited campaign contributions to politicians through super PACs, fundraisers, wine caves, etc. Which leads me to the Democrats. Unfortunately, 80% of the Democratic Party also loves this system, also celebrates it. So spare me their fake outrage on this issue. For real Americans, by the way, 93% of us, including Republican voters, hate this system. They know that it's corruption, but the band marches on and pretends that Bevin is an outlier. It's some sort of unusual case. No, it's the same exact thing as everyone else, except instead of getting bribes to help the oil companies destroy the planet, as an example, or from insurance companies to destroy our healthcare system, where, by the way, because of private insurance, 45,000 people a year die. 45,000 people a year. But those bribes are just campaign contributions, right? In this case, it happens to be murderers and rapists, but it's a bribe any way you slice it.
I need a break after that story. And you're right, you're 100% right. Let's take a break. When we come back, we're gonna switch over to Democrats and Michael Bloomberg's campaign, where it was recently reported that he was using prison labor in order to help him campaign. We'll be right back.
Never in my life did I think I would like to see a dictator. But if there's gonna be one, I want it to be Trump.
Tick-tock, tick-tock.
Where's the line? We've crossed every line you can imagine.
We are a socialist country. It's socialism for the rich.
Tick-tock, tick-tock.
You don't have to know the truth, just believe what they tell you.
There is no bounds to their monstrous hypocrisy. Tick-tock. I think we're gonna win the Senate in 2020. And I think we're gonna have the House, and I think we're gonna have the presidency. Tick-tock. And in 2020, we're going to clean your clock. And we're gonna run you out of town, and we're gonna have an actual democracy in this country. November of 2020 could also be potentially the greatest day of our lives. Let us whisper of a dream.
With Doe, you can turn your passions into potential investment opportunities. Whether it's cannabis, fashion, travel, video games, or anything in between, you tell them what you're interested in, and they'll help you uncover the investment potential. Doe provides your daily one-stop investment shop with lists of companies that relate to your personal interests, relevant news, and your favorite stocks and videos that unpack today's money-moving headlines in under 3 minutes. Go to doe.com/TYT.
The Monsanto Corporation continues to sell an herbicide called Roundup. You should know that recent studies have linked this commercial herbicide to a significant increase in non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. A diagnosis of this type of cancer can be devastating to you and your family, while Monsanto continues to profit from these sales. If you or a loved one were exposed to Roundup at work or at home and then developed non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, you might be entitled to financial compensation, and you have a right to take action now.
I'm Cenk Uygur. I'm Cenk Uygur. Of the Young Turks. Of the Young Turks.
We're here at Occupy Oakland. Yesterday, there were peaceful marches from City Hall to the port.
Young Turks was lucky enough to go to a campaign rally for Bernie Sanders.
protests did turn ugly during the nighttime when a group of anarchists attempted to occupy vacant buildings. You see graffiti all over the place. There was a bonfire in the middle of the street.
Welcome to the Young Turks, fourth day on Occupy Wall Street.
So we just did a tour of the whole Occupy Wall Street compound / town here.
The protests are gaining some traction.
All right, I watch this show all the time. I fucking love it.
We can make it happen. It's amazing what's happened.
Show me what democracy looks like.
And all of a sudden, everybody feels hope. There is hope. There is hope. We can fight back. We can fight back. We will fight back. We will fight back. And we will win. And we will win.
All right, back on the Young Turks. Adelencia says, corporations are not people. Mega donors are rather suspect as well. Now, look, guys, let's not get into that. The problem isn't particular people. The problem is the system. So we've got to change the systemic corruption that we have. Wolf-pack.com. Stiff upper lip in the member section as well says, Citizens United really, really screwed us. You know, Mitch McConnell celebrates that. So that's like, we've got the 10th anniversary coming up. It's a day that'll live in infamy for the rest of the country. Like I told you, 93% of voters hate it, okay, including Republicans. But McConnell's like, yes. And that's because he's the heart of corruption. So now it's corrupted the entire Republican Party. You've been through it 100 times. But by the way, it's not just Citizens United. Back in 76 and 78, there was other important Supreme Court decisions that totally screwed us. Anyways, one more comment. Left is Best on YouTube super chat says, Bevin is an utter piece of human scum. Yes. I mean, it's a simple comment, but it's super hard not to agree with that.
Yep.
I think that on top of being corrupt, he's old school morally depraved. There's something wrong with that guy. And Republicans voted him in Kentucky. Now he lost the last election, so thank you, Kentucky. But it's disturbing that he ever won any election.
But let's not forget Roy Moore, and I mean, time after time, they show us who they are. That's all I'm saying. And when they show you who they are, believe them.
Yep. Super last thing, we told you about tyt.com/climate to hire a climate reporter. We're trying to get to 200. We're almost there. When I updated you on this a couple of days ago, it was at 163. Look at this. Now we're at 166,000. No, that actually I've got a better update. 786. Okay.
What?
So let's keep it going. tyt.com/climate. We hire the reporter and we do some great reporting as you've seen in the past. And that's just, I hope we can get it done by the end of the year. So thank you guys. Oh, there you go. See that? Okay. Let's finish it up. All right. Thank you. Let's go.
All right. The Intercept has discovered that Mike Bloomberg, who's running for president, is using or was using prison labor in order to do his phone banking for his presidential campaign. Now, his campaign claims that they didn't know that prison labor was being utilized because they took out a contract with a third party, but that's not good enough for me, and I'll tell you why. First, let me get through all the details. Through a third-party vendor, The Mike Bloomberg 2020 campaign contracted New Jersey-based call center company Procom, which runs call centers in New Jersey and Oklahoma. 2 of the call centers in Oklahoma are operated out of state prisons. In at least one of the 2 prisons, incarcerated people were contacted to make calls on behalf of the Bloomberg campaign. People incarcerated at the Dr. Eddie Warrior Correctional Center, a minimum security women's prison, were making calls to California on behalf of Bloomberg. The people were required to end their calls by disclosing that the calls were paid for by the Bloomberg campaign. They did not disclose, however, that they were calling from behind bars. Now again, the Bloomberg campaign claims that they didn't know about this, that the third-party vendor that they were working with apparently didn't disclose it. Again, that's what they're claiming. We didn't know about this and we never would have allowed it if we had. We don't believe in this practice and we've now ended our relationship with the subcontractor in question. But like, politics is such a joke in America at this point, right? Because I don't know, maybe I'm dumb and naive. I was under the impression that people who do phone banking on your behalf are people who are volunteering for your campaign.
And no, for progressives, that's definitely true. And so just Democrats, for example, have, that was one of the first things that they built and gave to campaigns was a dialer, which helps them make calls much quicker. Because as AOC famously said, they've got money, we've got people. We've got people is the name of Ryan Grimm's book that covered this. And so, by the way, it's on shoptyt.com. Okay, so, but seriously, so if you got volunteers, you want to plug it into a system where they make the calls for free, et cetera, and out of the goodness of their heart. But the corporate Democrats don't have as many volunteers. Famously, Dianne Feinstein refused to even take any volunteers. It probably didn't even occur to her, who the hell would volunteer for Dianne Feinstein? So they pay staffers to do things. Now, it's not that no progressive candidate has ever paid a staffer to canvass or do phone banking, but it's much rarer, partly because they don't have enough money, right? But the corporate Democrats have all the money in the world. So they pay people to knock on doors and pretend that they actually care about the person running. They pay them to make phone calls and pretend they care about the person that they're making the phone calls on behalf of.
This is, I mean, this, like I said, politics in America is a joke. And it's super enlightening because, you know, as someone who works in news, I never really sat to think about how people are hired. And again, it's my own naive nature in thinking that people who work for campaigns genuinely like those candidates and want to support those candidates. But no, I mean, look, the thing that Mike Bloomberg brings to the table is his wealth. And so he's used to buying what he wants. And in this case, you know, his campaign's using this ridiculous excuse of, oh no, we just didn't know that this vendor used prison labor. But you're running for president of the United States. You're not gonna carefully vet the vendors that you're working with? That's kind of weird. And there's also the problem, and this isn't just about Mike Bloomberg's campaign. This is a problem in America overall, where the new version of slave labor is let's incarcerate nonviolent people and have them work practically for free.
So I'm gonna get to that because I actually think that's a bigger part of the story. But I want to give credit to John Washington at The Intercept for bringing this story. It's a great story and it had good impact on it. In terms of his campaign, he's spending money so quickly. To be fair to him, it's hard to keep up. He's already spent $74 million in television advertising.
It's so pathetic.
By the way, if you're wondering why television never talks about money in politics and how it corrupts all of our politicians, that's because they get $6 billion on average every election cycle in TV ads, including $74 million in just a couple of weeks from Bloomberg, just one candidate. So now he has $54 billion, so it's hard for him to track all this money that he's spending all over. He's already hired 200 staffers to work for him. That is unbelievable number of people.
Does he have too much money and too many staffers?
That is hard for him to track if he's using prison labor.
Let's not be so hard on him, Cenk.
Right.
Poor guy.
Now, I'm telling you the context, and the context is he can't get real people to, and by the way, there's a lot of Democratic officials all across the country and consultants and lobbyists pretending to be progressives or whoever they were pretending to be, who have gone and worked for Bloomberg for a lot of money because he's paying Gundam money to take staffers from other people. Like he's way overpaying. I've talked to people that have gotten the offers. They're like, holy cow! He's paying them through the entire election, even if he drops out tomorrow. It goes all the way to November. So
this is all like so soul crushing, because if it ever crossed my mind to run for Congress and I knew that I couldn't run a campaign with volunteers who genuinely support me and want me to run for Congress, I wouldn't run for Congress, right? Because it's a giant popularity contest. That's what it is.
No, I wish it was a popularity contest. What it is oftentimes a money contest. Anyway, but to go back to, I think, what is the more devastating part of the story, what Anna alluded to. So Bloomberg's campaign contracts with Procom, and they say they're paying Procom $7.25 an hour. I'm sorry, they're paying Procom a certain amount, and Procom says that they are paying Oklahoma minimum wage of $7.25 to the Oklahoma Department of Corrections. Okay, now already you have an issue here. You have two big issues. It's going to prison labor, and it's minimum wage of $7.25. That's $15,000 a year. That's nothing. But hold the phone. That's not even the main problem. The main problem is when the money goes to the Department of Corrections, it does not go to the prisoners.
Right.
The Department of Corrections then turns around, according to their published material, and pays people a maximum of, you're not gonna believe this number, $20 a month. A month. You didn't hear it wrong. Another policy document they had said, no, we actually can pay them a maximum of $27.09 a month.
Oh, that makes it better. Okay, great.
Okay,
yeah.
So we've told you this in the past, but it's stunning every time you see it. A lot of these prisons pay their prisoners full-time work that they're doing $1 a day. $1 a day. That's why it comes out to either $20 or $27 a month. Okay, so you know what $1 a day is? Slave labor. Period. Period. Slave labor. We have it in the state of Oklahoma. I don't know if it's too ugly for the mainstream media to cover it consistently, or like, oh, they feel uncomfortable, or they're covering up for the powerful, which is 90% of what they do, right? But how is this not an outrage for the whole country that we've reinstituted slave labor? Oklahoma's not the only state doing it. A lot of the states pay their prisoners $1 an hour, $1 a day, and then they have them working for the richest people in the country. Mike Bloomberg is $54 billion. Right. And he's getting people to work for him for $1 a day. He's using slave labor, even though he has $54 billion. And so you could say, hey, he didn't know, blah, 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 and we gave you all the context. But the system is what's wrong. It's not even about Bloomberg, it's that the system allows for this. And it's barbaric. And yet, the Republican Party rejoices in it. The Democratic Party does nothing about it.
Some
and the mainstream media.
Some of them make excuses for, oh, well, they learned skills. No, but okay. These are not like dangerous, violent criminals who are gonna be in prison for the rest. This is a low security women's prison, okay? So non-violent offenders, I'm guessing the majority of them are non-violent offenders. Look, we have a system that has purposely created this punitive approach toward things that need rehabilitation, people who need rehabilitation, maybe someone who's addicted to drugs, whatever it is. But I don't think it's an accident. I think it's done on purpose because slave labor is part of this country's history. It's part of this country's present.
And who gains from it? Corporations and the Department of Corrections. So even at minimum wage, if you worked an 8-hour day, it's about $60 a day, right? It's not a great wage, but at least it goes to somebody in Oklahoma, right? Nope, in this case, it goes to the prisons and to the corporations, and the prisoner gets $1 a day. So we have slave labor in the country, and no one cares. And the last set of folks I was going to blame, because it's true, is the mainstream media. They're like, oh, slave labor, who cares? Let's move on.
Let's talk about Lisa Murkowski and how she had some strong words from McConnell. That's the big news story of the day. Look, we covered it, but mostly to make fun of the media about it.
So that's why The Intercept does a great job. You just, we tell you to support us because we're independent media, but you should also support other wonderful independent media like The Intercept.
Yes, absolutely. All right, well, let's move on to a different Democrats campaign. Pete Buttigieg is making news today for a little gimmick that he's trying to use to get small dollar donors. So Following some of the harsh criticism toward Pete Buttigieg's fundraising behavior and the fact that he had a fundraiser in a wine cave, his campaign has decided to use a gimmick in order to make it appear as though a significant portion of his contributors are small dollar donors. So they put out this email, and in the email, they basically ask for people to compete to see who can put out or contribute the most unique small dollar donation. The Pete for America Innovation Team sent out an email to supporters launching a contest in which the person donating the smallest unique amount would win a prize. Here's what the email reads. All you have to do to win is donate the smallest amount that nobody else donates. In other words, suppose you donate $1. If someone else playing also donated exactly $1, you both lose. We'll see if only one player donated $1.01 and so on until we find an amount donated exactly once, and that's our winner. Like, it's super transparent, bro. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah, but you know what? They're so used to positive media coverage that they probably thought, we're not gonna get caught. Nobody ever criticizes us, so we'll do this. They probably thought they were so clever.
That picture though, it's like, I almost feel bad that we use that picture.
Yeah, no, but I mean, in a sense, that's like the robot that he is, right? And he's built for this political environment. Anyway, so you guys get it, right? So that means that everybody's trying to put in $1.02, $1.27, 97 cents, etc. So when he then gets, and they're trying to win. And so when he gets thousands of contributions that are that low, it balances out the contributions he's getting that are $2,800 or bundlers at $25,000. Now even the bundlers, they don't count as 25,000. They're gonna still get the max, right?
Yeah.
And the whole point is so you can say, oh, I have so many more donors that are under $200 and my average is so much lower. It's, if he didn't get caught, it would be a clever little gimmick. But now, the press is paying a tiny bit more attention only because the other candidates are busting on him. They would never do their own homework on this, of course.
Yeah, look, I don't know if the press is really paying close attention. I know that voters are paying close attention. I know that other candidates who are true progressives, Bernie Sanders, they're paying attention. And so one of Bernie Sanders's campaign advisors actually poked fun at this on Twitter. So Tim Tagaris is his name. He says, the Pete for America Innovation Team is out there working hard on Christmas Eve, coming up with gimmicks to lower his average donation amount this quarter. Funny stuff. This is so transparently hilarious. Wow, his average donation was lower this quarter. It's a Christmas miracle. Yeah, look, what candidates overall, and this is not just for Pete Buttigieg, all candidates need to realize is that it's not 2008. People are paying attention, close attention. The issue of corruption and money in politics is very much front and center for a lot of voters, especially on the Democratic side. And so when they see corruption, when they hear about the wine caves, even though it sounds delicious and pleasant, and I would love to be part of that, not to fundraise, but just to drink and have a good time. Like, it's just not okay when donors are spending $900 on a bottle of wine in order to have influence on Pete Buttigieg in case he wins. That's a problem, right? And yeah, that's the only point I really wanted to make about this story.
So Bernie's campaign average donation, last I saw, was down to $18. Is it because they were doing gimmicks like this? No, it's because it's average Americans. And I don't know if there are hundreds of thousands or millions of them at this point that are given $5, $10 at a time. He didn't need a gimmick. So it's Buttigieg constantly trying to game the system. How can I appear to be progressive without actually being progressive?
Yeah, go ahead.
So one last thing about that is that since the other phenomenon that you should start paying attention to is, since the press would not cover Buttigieg negatively under penalty of law, what Warren and Sanders realized is they do cover the other candidates when they say something, right? So Warren had to point out the wine cave so that the press would talk about it.
Bingo.
And Sanders' team is pointing out this trick so that the press would talk about it. If they didn't, the press would be like, no, that's our boy. We're not gonna criticize Buttigieg, no way, right? But when a candidate says it or their team says it, they're forced to cover it.
So what I also wanted to add to this, and it's just a little bit about Buttigieg's family and bio that I didn't know about until recently. So Professor Richard Wolff was recently interviewed on the Michael Brooks show, and he was talking, because he's a professor, right? And so he knows other professors, particularly socialist professors, because he's a socialist himself. And did you know that Pete Buttigieg's dad is a socialist and a professor?
I knew he was a professor.
Yeah, I had no idea, and that was just really fascinating to me. That,
yeah, I wonder if he's devastated by what happened to his son. No, I don't want to get into his family.
No, don't.
Yeah, bless his heart. And his parents taught him so well. That's part of why he's so well educated. So nothing but love for his parents. And in terms of the wine cave, I don't care about wine, so I have no interest in it. But I thought, what kind of a cave would I want?
Come on, Cenk, how awesome does that look?
No, it looks spectacular.
No marijuana cave?
Like, no, marijuana cave. That's
I just want to be in a cave for a little bit, just escape life.
I know, right? So I thought sub cave, okay, where you have any kind of sub you want. You want turkey and bacon? We got that. You want an Italian? Totally. Okay, you want hot subs, cold subs? We have it all in the sub cave. Go down there, watch football, playoffs with the guys. Oh.
It just sounds like a man
cave. That's a cave. Okay, we'll talk more about it in the postgame. TYT.com/join.
That sounds fun. All right, we got to take a break. But when we come back, looks like the establishment is realizing that Bernie Sanders is a serious candidate and he could win the nomination. I'm going to give you their reactions when we come back.
How in the world are you going to get the right to vote if you don't already have the right to vote? That's impossible. Reason they tell you things are impossible is because they don't want you to try. It only took 7 years for them to get an amendment to get a right to vote.
Does this result in millions upon millions of Americans losing their coverage? And we've been waiting to find out, and now we know, yes, it will cut millions.
Public education was supposed to be the way to equalize everyone regardless of their socioeconomic status. But if you come from a family that's poor, how are you going to afford grade school for your kids?
This fight is about fairness and morality. It's about the American values.
You think that black people all across the country, in every city, were all lying when they said the police abuse us and the police kill us when they should? No, of course they weren't lying. Yes, it does happen. Yes, they do get targeted more.
Why are we going to put immigrants in prison for 5 years, which American taxpayers have to pay for, if we're so concerned with immigrants using up our so-called resources?
We're gonna do both. We're gonna fight Trump and we're gonna fight the establishment. It's not that hard. Yes, you can do both at the same time. Go tell them.
The Monsanto Corporation continues to sell an herbicide called Roundup. You should know that recent studies have linked this commercial herbicide to a significant increase in non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. A diagnosis of this type of cancer can be devastating to you and your family, while Monsanto continues to profit from these sales. If you or a loved one were exposed to Roundup at work or at home and then developed non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, you might be entitled to financial compensation, and you have a right to take action now.
We get animated about the news. Yes, we're not the robots on TV. I actually care about the news. Guilty, I care. Senator Sanders, I'm going to do something unusual. I'm going to ask you a policy question. Hey, how dare you? That's the problem, you're the problem. Don't ever attack the Republicans. Where the is the liberal media? No, these are all establishment guys. They love the system as it is. They're all enormously rich off the system that exists.
For us, this system isn't working. So what this campaign is about is trying to create an economy that works not only for the people on top, but works for all Americans.
We're gonna rock the boat. We're gonna be counter-establishment. We're gonna tell people the truth to the best of our abilities, and we're gonna keep it real with them.
It's winter, and it's cold this time of year, isn't it? Well, it might feel chilly, and the wind might bite at your nose. Maybe you want to snuggle up with a hot chocolate, or wrap up warm and wear your biggest coat. But in the grand scheme of things, our earth is too hot, and it's getting even hotter. Our seasons are getting confused. Lots of birds are nesting earlier, and spring flowers are coming out too soon. This is what climate change looks like. It's affecting so many of the things we love, both here in our own backyards and around the world. But we have hope because we know that together we can protect them if we act now and everyone does their bit. So this Christmas, give a gift of love and show the world you care.
All right, back on the Young Turks. First, let's go to our members as usual. I am a damn lib writes in. Making prisoners work for slave wages should be illegal. Remember what Kamala did as Attorney General in California. Kamala Harris is out of the race, so it's not as relevant, but she could be VP one day. But that goes to the point of Democrats don't care. They're not gonna, they should be going nuts over it, right? But they don't. As usual, they should be going nuts over 1,000 things. They go nuts over nothing.
Can I say something really quick, because it's actually been weighing me down, and I want to make something that I said wrong right. Okay. Do you remember when Kanye West? It was during a phase when he wasn't well.
Yeah.
He said something about. Huh?
Okay, yeah.
I don't remember his exact words, but he said something about the Constitution and how it warrants like slave labor. I don't remember. Like it was, and to be fair to me, he wasn't clear in what he was trying to communicate, so I thought it was just gibberish and nonsense. But I've realized that the prison labor and the slave labor was what he was talking about.
Oh yeah,
and so
well,
now
that's a good point. Yeah.
Now I feel super bad that I was critical of him because he was trying to make a good point there. So no, but Kanye, if you're watching this, I apologize. You were right.
Okay, so that's lovely of you.
Yeah,
but I think I remember that speech. The rest of it was nonsense.
Yeah.
Okay.
It kind of got lost in the middle of craziness.
That's right.
Yeah.
Anyway, but that's not good of you to say. All right, Witchy Witch says, remember that scam run by the warden in the Shawshank Redemption? It wasn't just fiction for that prison, nor is it fiction for states today. Unfortunately, totally true. You look at the movie, go, that's outrageous, right? It's happening today to fellow Americans. Not that, Donald writes in. California Forestry Department pays prisoners $1 a day to fight the wildfires.
Yes, thank you for bringing that up.
Prisoners are fully trained, but cannot get the actual job after serving their sentence.
Yes, that was a no filter episode.
It's a crime on top of a crime.
Yes.
And it's done by the state. As Ice Cube said, who's the animal that built this prison? Last one is Eclectic Miscellanea. This one's awesome. Wouldn't it be hilarious if Paul Manafort or Rick Gates were forced to dial for Bloomberg phone banks for $1 an hour? Okay, that would be hilarious, but remember, it's not $1 an hour, it's $1 a day.
Yeah.
Okay, no ostrich jackets for Manafort in prison. All right, what's next?
All right. A recent profile on Bernie Sanders and Politico shows that a growing number of establishment Democrats see him as a threat and as a serious candidate. Now, as we all know, throughout this election, they've been brushing him off. No one's been taking him seriously other than good progressives in independent media. But now there's a growing number of people who worked on Obama's campaign, in Obama's administration, and who are very much part of the Democratic establishment who are like, it kind of seems like he's pretty resilient and maybe we should be worried. So let me give you the details. Politico reports in private conversations and on social media, Democratic officials, political operatives, and pundits are reconsidering Sanders' chances. Now let me be clear, when they say reconsidering, it doesn't mean that they're like thinking of supporting him. They're gonna go after him now, and it's gonna be aggressive. And I want everyone to be prepared for that and ready to fight back. So this is from David Brock. It may have been inevitable that eventually you would have two candidates representing each side of the ideological divide in the party. A lot of smart people I've talked to lately think there's a very good chance those two end up being Biden and Sanders. They've both proven to be very resilient. And I think Brock is actually right about that, right? Yep. Now, I don't really understand the resiliency when it comes to Biden, because Biden has, made a bunch of mistakes, missteps, gaffes, whatever you want to call them. With Bernie Sanders, the resiliency is about his heart attack, right? So he suffers this heart attack, and luckily it only hurt him for a short period of time in the polling.
And he survived two other things. One is nonstop negative coverage in the beginning, and then after the heart attack, no coverage at all, which actually hurts a lot because then you don't have any earned media. You can only get in the press through paid media and through the rallies that he does. So he survived all of that and is now peaking. But guys, this is mainly about Bernie Sanders, but don't forget about Biden. He is still leading in the national polling. He's still leading in a lot of the states. If you sleep on Biden thinking that other people are the issue, Biden will pull a Trump and win because no one bothered to fight him when he has been leading all along.
Let me give you some specifics when it comes to Biden's lead. So Politico reports that Sanders is in second place in national polls, nearly 9 percentage points behind Joe Biden. And that's according to the most recent Real Clear Politics average. He is second in Iowa and first in New Hampshire. The latest CNN poll found that he has the highest net favorability rating among any Democratic presidential candidate.
So the last part of that is about Sanders. Sanders is second in Iowa, first in New Hampshire, and his net favorability rating, I talked about this a couple of days ago, is 75% in the Democratic Party. It's the highest of all the contenders. And I ask on social media where some of the press is, guys, if he's the most popular guy in the Democratic Party, according to favorability ratings, and he never gets any positive coverage, does that make you think at all? Does that make you pause at all? Hey, maybe everyone we know doesn't like him, but 3/4 of Democrats love him. Maybe we're not representative of all the voters. But that thought never occurs to the mainstream media. In fact, there's a reference later in this article that drove me crazy.
Right, so let me just say that Bernie, for the most part, hasn't been getting a lot of negative press. I think that
since the heart attack.
Since the heart attack.
When he launched, he got hit with a giant wave of negative press.
But lately, there's been more of a blackout where they don't cover him at all, right? Yeah. And so, again, I think the important takeaway from this story is that establishment figures are realizing that it's likely that he could win the nomination, or more likely that he could win the nomination, and so the attacks are coming. You know, it's a way of kind of predicting what's to come. Now, Dan Pfeiffer, who's a former Obama administration advisor, said, "I believe people should take him very seriously. He has a very good shot of winning Iowa, a very good shot of winning New Hampshire, and other than Joe Biden, the best shot of winning Nevada. He could build a real head of steam heading into South Carolina and Super Tuesday." David Axelrod also had similar comments to make. Again, a former Obama advisor. "We never talk about Bernie Sanders." I like that he admitted that. "He's actually doing pretty well in this polling. He's actually picked up. And the fact is, Bernie Sanders is as consistent can be."
So that's the part that I really want to focus on. He admits there, accidentally or otherwise, we never talk about him. Jake Tapper the other day accidentally admitted when he was talking to Mehdi Hassan, hey, we normally don't have any progressives on, but you're a progressive, so let me ask you a question, right? So I like Axelrod's quote, but I would ask him, and from time to time he actually can be quite honest. Like, did that ever make you pause? Did that make you ever reflect? Did you ever talk to anyone else in the media organizations that you're in and say, hey guys, how come we never do talk about Bernie Sanders? How come he's the most popular Democrat in terms of favorability and he's number 2 in all of the polling in all these different states? And we never mention the number 2 guy. We're always talking about Buttigieg, who's number 4. We're talking about Klobuchar, who's number 18 or whatever she is. How come we never talk about Bernie Sanders? And I'll tell you the reason why. Because everyone in mainstream media does not like Bernie Sanders and does not believe in Bernie Sanders. They think they have always thought back in 2016 and in this election that he has no chance of winning. So since every one of them is biased against Bernie Sanders, they're in that bubble where they assume, despite seeing polling over and over and over again, they look at the polls and goes, that can't be true because everyone I know doesn't like Bernie Sanders, doesn't think he has any chance of winning at all. Didn't that ever make you think that maybe the people you know are biased? But it never, it either never occurs to them or maybe even worse, they talk about it and they're like, but no, like since we don't want him to win, let's not give him coverage. And if we do, let's give him really bad coverage.
Yeah, I think that's more the case. Like, I don't know, I think the media, I think it's intentional and I think it's malicious. I don't think they want him to win. I think that's where it comes from. I don't think it's because, they're in a thought bubble where people think it's impossible for him to win. Because look, I think that this is a good case study, right? Because now that we know that the establishment is more aware that he has a good shot at winning the nomination, let's see how they behave following this report. Let's see how they treat him.
Yeah, and look, I know the establishment media will never think we're fair because they're so biased.
They can think whatever the hell they want.
Yeah, they think that anyone who doesn't love Klobuchar is by definition biased. And so they'll think, okay.
Oh yeah. Why don't you guys like the candidate who consistently tells everyone, I'm gonna do nothing for you? That's her big campaign promise.
So their bias doesn't count, and they think when we're honest about our perspective that counts and is disqualifying or whatever they call it, right? But the reality is we are honest. So I saw and we're a billion times less biased than they are. Because I saw an article about Bernie Sanders the other day on BuzzFeed News, and it was great. It was a positive article about how he's trying to actually put in the spotlight, not himself, but voters that he interacts with, and he always puts them in front of the camera and steps back, which is very unusual for a politician. And I was like, look at this, that's a positive article, a really positive article. So I'm actually thrilled to see it. And I don't look at that and go, I don't believe it. No, I'm happy to see it. And I saw, I think maybe 2 other articles this entire campaign. I'm not saying I saw all the articles, but of the ones that I saw maybe 2 others that were positive, and I've seen about 200 that were negative. And so, and it's sometimes it's brazen, sometimes it's over the top, and we've shared those on the show with you guys. We've shared a small fraction of those. A lot of times it's just in the assumptions, like just assuming that Bernie Sanders is not electable. And by the way, this article does it at Politico. And then at the end, Pfeiffer says that includes an examination of his electability. Now we're gonna look into that now. Now I looked at it today because we were doing this story. I was like, okay, I don't wanna be biased. I looked at the numbers. And Biden and Bernie Sanders are nearly tied in how well they do against Trump. So they're separated by about 3 points on both favorability and unfavorability. Buttigieg right now is losing to Trump. In the last poll, Biden and Sanders are absolutely tied. They both have a 4-point lead over Trump. Okay, Buttigieg is minus 1.2 in the collection of polls. But yet, when you talk about electability, now you watch it with your own eyes. This is what we always tell you guys. When you read the articles or you watch cable news, you'll see they will talk about Buttigieg as being electable and Bernie Sanders is not electable. Why? Why? The polling does not indicate that at all. It indicates the exact opposite. They do it because they like Buttigieg and they don't like Bernie Sanders. He doesn't match their ideology and they're deeply, deeply biased.
Look, I mean, think about the Mimi Rocha segment where she said, I don't know what it is about Bernie Sanders, but he makes my skin crawl. Like that is the expert political analysis that mainstream media has in regard to Bernie Sanders.
Yeah.
Intentional and malicious. So look, what I love is that he has the right people working for him in his campaign. Faz Shakir, who's his campaign manager, had a great comment. So they want to look into Sanders's electability and they want to start scrutinizing him a little more. And he says, Faz Shakir says, we want that. I'd love to be able to argue why he stands a better chance to beat Donald Trump than Joe Biden.
And last thing on this, guys, is if they looked at it honestly, I would love it too. Because they would then have to report that Bernie Sanders does great on electability and they'd have to report the real numbers, right? But they're not gonna do that. They're just gonna assume he's not electable and then write it down. They're gonna do it. You'll see it with your own eyes. They've done it 100 times. Why do I think they're gonna do it? Because they already did it 1,000 times, 100 times, 1,000 times. Okay, so my guess is, and you'll see it, that they'll do the opposite. They'll report the opposite of what is true. If they actually looked into his electability and looked at the numbers, I'd say fantastic. That's exactly what we want. Why do people like Bernie Sanders? Because he's the only honest politician. And if you look at the numbers on honesty, cares about people like me, I relate to him, etc. Number one, number one, number one. Do you ever see that in the press? So I hope Faz is right. I hope that at some point the mainstream media does any kind of objective, real reporting, but it hasn't happened yet. So I'm not that hopeful.
We got to take a break. When we come back, we have more for you, including conservatives losing their minds over the Canadian broadcasting company cutting a Trump cameo out of Home Alone 2. We'll be right back.
We're gonna do a little thing we like to call Weekly World News. Weekly World News. I cull stories from around the globe, stories that aren't covered on the main show or aren't covered enough, and I turn it into a 5-question quiz for Dave and Steve. All right, do we have our answers? A from Dave and C from Steve, and the correct answer is B, an oil tanker that sank off the coast of China. Okay, we have one answer of B and one answer of C. What is the correct answer? It is, of course, A, an airplane wing walking stunt gone wrong. Okay, we have an answer of A from Dave and C from Steve. The correct answer is B. We have an answer of B and C. What is the correct answer in true Weekly World News tradition? It's A.
Come on.
Taking the bear out for ice cream.
That can't possibly be true. We're terrible today. Just terrible.
I often think about the terror that my grandmother was under till she was 8 or 9 years old, and how horrific that experience must have been in this state of discomfort for the benefit of other people.
People will still treat you like you're the problem. That's what we mean when we say living well black. We're just trying to live our best life and trying to be the best that we can be. And we're frustrated and tired of people treating us like we're criminals.
The Monsanto Corporation continues to sell an herbicide called Roundup. You should know that recent studies have linked this commercial herbicide to a significant increase in non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. A diagnosis of this type of cancer can be devastating to you and your family, while Monsanto continues to profit from these sales. If you or a loved one were exposed to Roundup at work or at home and then developed non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, you might be entitled to financial compensation, and you have a right to take action now.
You're about to watch some behind the scenes footage of the Young Turks. Ooh. Now, these are partial videos. If you want to get all of them, you become a member, go to tyt.com/join, and you'll get all the behind the scenes of me, Anna, John, JR, a little bit reality show like tyt.com/join, and enjoy this.
You know what you're seeing behind me? Jersey, hold. Watch me flip this camera. However I flip it. Do I flip it like this? No, I just took a picture. I'm bitzing right now.
What?
Behind the scenes.
Oh, okay. For members? I don't have my face on.
She doesn't have her face on, folks. Oh, that's JR's ass right there.
You can't take 5 minutes off, can you?
No, I can't, Johnny Pie. I said it was live stream, but I was lying. It's not a live stream. It's just for members. Bitsy, this is my cat. You know what his name is? Kiki Cat.
Animals are innocent.
Control room and the insanity is obviously there.
Right now, as you can see, I'm directing or tech directing.
I'm so happy to be here.
This is what like a Labor Day beard looks like for Cenk. Man, you're a Young Turks viewer if you recognize me like this.
Such a big fan. Oh, thank you. You are the one person in my life I would love to meet.
What's going on, guys? This is a Bitsy or a BTS or behind the scenes with Hassan Piker, aka Woke Bay.
Oh, hi, I didn't see you there.
I have finished my show, The Damage Report, and now I get into a really awkward time of the day.
When I'm sitting, the control room is right there. So I can see Bart.
And this is the Pittsburgh office, by the way. I'll refer to often as the boiler room.
You see how it's ripped? Is it super unprofessional to wear that at a business meeting? Or am I like cool, rebel?
I just finished doing the power panel and I'm fired up.
What do you do for TYT? Not a whole lot.
If you're frantically tweeting at us that something's broken, thank you, because I'm fixing it.
And thank you for being a TYT member.
Super last thing, because there's always got to be a super last thing. Oh, that was disastrous. This has been behind the scenes, behind the scenes.
All right, back on the Young Turks, Cenk and Anna with you guys. Mark in the comment member section says Biden's resiliency is due to the mainstream media backing him. Without mainstream media, Biden would be nowhere. There's a lot of truth to that. It's not just based on that, but the number one reason Biden's number is still at number one nationally is because every article says he's more electable. Just assumes it. Just assumes it. I saw an article in the LA Times that said Biden's big weapon is that he's the most electable. And then they showed a poll, not of him winning against Trump, but of people saying they think he's the most electable, but they think that because you write articles like this. So anyway, drives me crazy. Punk NATO says if Warren dropped out, wouldn't a lot or most of her support move to Sanders? Yes and no. You'd be surprised. Some of that support would actually move to other candidates. So actually, the ideal is not Warren dropping out. The ideal is Warren at some point backing Sanders. So hold, okay? And there's so many wonderful ones here, but last one, the Progressive Twin says, I mean, goddamn, look at the amount of Bernie's donations and volunteers, and the mainstream is going to act like he isn't a giant? Get real, it's so obviously malicious. Giving the power back to the people makes them shake in their bones. Get ready, we're coming. But guys, that's such a good point, because if you're a real journalist, the amount of individual donations he's gotten would be stunning and amazing, and one of the most amazing phenomenons to cover in your whole life of covering politics. No one previously thought you could run a campaign with only small dollar donors. He's outraising everyone in the field with his average donation being $18. That is the most spectacular, amazing political story of our lifetimes. And yet he gets almost no credit from the mainstream media. It's either a bias so deep that they're just absolutely blind and useless as reporters, or they're malicious, and neither scenario is particularly kind to the mainstream media. And it's their fault for doing this to the guy who's considered the most honest politician of our lifetimes. All right, what's next?
All right, let's do it.
Excuse me, where's the lobby?
Down the hall and to the left.
Thanks.
Showing of Home Alone 2 in Canada.
All right, that is a scene from Home Alone 2 that was taken out from the Canadian Broadcasting Company's version of the movie. Now, the reason they did that was actually not political. It was a decision that the broadcasting company made back in 2014. And real quick, Brett, you're in my ear and I don't think you know it, so it's distracting me. Sorry about that, guys. So they made that decision back in 2014, and the reason why they did that was because when you air a movie on television, you have to break it up and shorten it in order to make way for commercials, and that's exactly what they did. And so let's give you their tweet where CBC responds to criticism that short scene featuring Donald Trump was deleted from the movie Home Alone 2, which aired recently. Spokesperson says several cuts were made for time. These edits were done in 2014 when we first acquired the film and before Trump was elected president. Now, that's not good enough for conservatives, right? And so Fox and Friends, was very upset about this. They felt that it was censorship. So let's hear what they have to say.
They claim it's because they needed to leave room for commercials. That's the one part. That's
right.
6 or 7 seconds they cut.
Right, but that was a great 6-second commercial they had for whatever it was,
But how bad is your Trump derangement syndrome for you to cut that out of a happy movie?
Well, I think they're actually terrified that people will remember that before he was the new Hitler, he was actually a beloved mainstream cultural figure. He's in every, if you're going to start cutting him out, he's on the Regis Philbin Christmas album in the middle of Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. Regis, it's a terrific album, by the way. If you still want to play Christmas music on Boxing Day, Regis is the way to go. And then one foggy Christmas Eve, the Trumpster came to say, Blitzen, you're fired, Rudolph, you're hired. That's who Donald Trump was before he was the new Hitler. And I think they're terrified of these little things that will remind people of just how deranged his opponents.
It's also censorship.
So as you heard Katie Pavlich say, this is censorship when, again, in reality, this has nothing to do with censorship. This was a decision made in 2014. In 2014, Trump didn't run for president until a year later.
Yeah, I mean, you want to talk about derangement syndrome. So let's talk about a couple of things they mentioned there because there's so much fun.
Before you do I'm sorry, Cenk, we just got like a live update on this story I have to share with you. Trump just tweeted about this.
Of course he did.
And he feels that it's retaliation by Justin Trudeau.
Moron of morons. The CBC is not allowed to lie about it. They said as soon as we got the movie, it's a government organization, as soon as we got the movie in 2014, we edited it, and not just that 6 seconds, they edited a lot of different scenes to make it fit with TV commercials. You remember back in the day when you were on planes and they had not the individual screens, but the screens that everybody could watch? They would edit the movies, not only, I don't know if they made them shorter, but they would take out every potentially offensive word and curse. And that's why I would never watch the movies on the plane, because they were hatchet jobs to make it safe, right? But these guys, everything's, oh, it's a witch hunt. The CBC, the Canadians are doing a hoax. Okay, so I've got more on what they said in a second, but you got the tweet or something?
Yes, I have the tweets. He put out 2 tweets. The first one was one of those quote tweets, and he said, "The movie will never be the same," and then in parentheses, "just kidding." So he's poking fun, that's okay.
Just kidding's fine.
But here's the one where he thinks there's retaliation. "I guess Justin T doesn't much like my making him pay up on NATO or trade."
Could you imagine? You know why?
I love the idea that a world leader, okay, is so like bored and has nothing to do. So he like micromanages the Canadian Broadcasting Company.
No, as you were saying that, I realized why Trump thinks that. Because that's exactly what he would do.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
That's exactly how petty he would be.
Yeah.
How obsessed with TV he would be, and how he'd be like, "Oh yeah, we'll take Trudeau out of Home Alone 3 and see how he likes it." Okay, because that's who this clown of clowns is. Now let's turn to the clowns on Fox News. If you notice in the thing that Mark Stein was talking about, like, oh, there's a brilliant really Christmas special and Regis Philbin and Trump is in. And then he said the lyrics. And in the lyrics, Trump fires Blitzen.
I know, and he's like proud of that.
Yeah, like they celebrate, like, remember when Trump was a hero and fired one of the reindeer?
Yep.
Okay, that's their idea of a hero. And he crushed the reindeer, make them work for less, yes. Anyway, but to me, the most egregious was Ed Henry. Ed Henry is supposed to be one of their straight news broadcasters. And remember, he used to be on another network that also does objective news. That's who Ed Henry is. He called it, and he knew, if you noticed, he said in the thing that the Canadian Broadcasting Company actually edited it for the commercials. He knew their statement, he knew why they did it, but then he called it Trump derangement syndrome.
It's so stupid. This whole thing is stupid. By the way, you know what else is stupid? Trump would force film studios to put him in their movies if they wanted to shoot from Trump Tower. So we learned about this through an interview that Matt Damon did back in 2017. Let me give you his quotes. The deal was that if you wanted to shoot in one of Trump's buildings, you had to write him in a part. Martin Brest had to write something in Scent of a Woman, and the whole crew was in on it. You have to waste an hour of your day with a shot. Donald Trump walks in and Al Pacino's like, "Hello, Mr. Trump," and you had to call him by name and then he exits. You waste a little time so that you can get the permit and then you can cut the scene out. But I guess in Home Alone 2, they left it in. Which, by the way, I don't know why they did, because over the break, the holiday break, I rewatched Home Alone 1 and 2.
Oh, really?
I love those movies. I don't care what anyone thinks of that. I enjoy them. And as I'm like enjoying Home Alone 2, that scene comes up and it's like, You know, like it's just a short moment of like displeasure.
Why didn't Obama have all of those scenes edited out while he was president?
I don't know. I don't know.
I mean, you want to talk about derangement. By the way, Matt Damon, backed up by Chris O'Donnell in a totally different interview at a totally different time. Chris O'Donnell said he's independently said, it was explained to us that in order for us to film at the plaza, we had a little walk-in part for Donald and his ex-wife, Marla Maples. And so, and goes to who Trump is. Like, oh, you have to put me in the movie.
So lame.
You have to call me Mr. Trump, okay?
He's a marketer. That's what he's really good at. And he markets himself. He's an egomaniac.
Shameless, but yes, in terms of marketing, effective. He got it into that movie, yes. And now he has all of Fox News marketing for him.
So it's pathetic. Anyway, we have one other Christmas related story to share with you. On Christmas Eve, Arizona Republican Representative Paul Gosar tweeted a clip from a 1992 interview with Bill and Hillary Clinton where a production light actually falls in the middle of this interview, right? So here's what he had tweeted. Okay, here's the video, what it looked like.
Jesus, Mary and Joseph.
And in the tweet, he had written, "Remember the reason for the season, #Merry Christmas." So that's what the tweet looked like. Look, he's a clown. His own family members put out a campaign ad against him because he's such a monster. So he is what he is. But what I thought was fascinating about that video, which I had never seen before, was Bill Clinton's reaction, which was like sexy. No, I'm just keeping it real. Like, this is not about politics, people. Everybody calm the hell down, right? But look at how, like, his instinct was, I'm gonna protect my woman. And I really appreciated that. Look, no, I got you. I got you.
I got you, dog.
Yeah.
Okay, and so look, these days we're not big fans of Bill Clinton or Hillary Clinton's politics, but what the hell is wrong with Paul Gosar?
I know.
So she's not even in politics anymore. You went back 27 years to find a video of her getting hurt to put out on Christmas. Man, there's not enough counseling in the country to help this guy. And so like that's why it's not an accident that his family members all united to make a video against him, an ad against him, because they're like, you don't get it. We've lived with this guy. He's really troubled. And Republican voters thought, that's not the bug, that's the feature.
Totally. I actually want to go back to that ad and show you guys what it looked like. Again, these are his own family members campaigning against him in a campaign ad.
Paul Gosar, the congressman, isn't doing anything to help rural America.
Paul's absolutely not working for his district.
If they care about health care, they care about their children's health care, they would hold him to account. If they care about jobs, they would hold him to account.
And he's not listening to you, and he doesn't have your interests at heart. My name is Tim Gosar.
David Gosar.
Grace Gosar.
Joan Gosar.
Gaston Gosar.
Jennifer Gosar.
Paul Gosar is my brother.
My brother. And I endorse Dr. Brill.
Dr. Brill wholeheartedly endorse Dr. David Brill for Congress.
I'm Dr. David Brill, and I approve this message.
Jesus.
God, that is so savage.
Yeah, well, it's good to see Democrats fighting back against the Republicans. That was wonderfully refreshing. But he won anyway.
I know.
Republican voters have seen all the terrible things that he has done, and this is just the tip of the iceberg. And they're like, yes. Remember Matt Bevin, the guy who now pardoned on his way out, pardoned child rapists and murderers, etc. Republicans in Kentucky put him in. Roy Moore won the Republican primary in Alabama. You remember Roy Moore was banned from the mall in his 30s because he was targeting underage girls. Banned from the mall. He's like Chester the molester. And he won the Republican primary in Alabama. And he's back now. So look, it's not politically correct to say the mainstream media doesn't want to lose ratings, they don't want to lose readers, so they cover up for Republican voters. But Republican voters see these guys and they go, oh yeah, light falling on Hillary Clinton, almost hurting her, maybe even killing her. Ah, yeah, Christmas, Merry Christmas, Paul Gosar. Let's vote him in again. Jesus, I get it.
How can you see? I mean, look. For me, like something like this is not about politics, right? It's okay to have political disagreements, and anyone who watches this show knows that we have political disagreements with Hillary Clinton. But I don't want to see her hurt.
I mean, what is wrong with you that you would want to see her hurt? What is wrong with you?
Yeah, it's pretty sick. But Chelsea Clinton tweeted in response to this, and she said something that I thought was pretty clever. And she also noticed something that I noticed. So at 11 a.m. on Christmas Eve, we are making cookies for Santa. Thank you, are they really making cookies for Santa? Come on. Anyway, let's move on.
It's possible we did.
Maybe with kids or something.
Yeah.
Thank you, Congressman Gosar, for reminding me of my dad's quick reflexes. And that's definitely what I noticed too. I was like, wow, good for him.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
And by the way, I know, I get it, because she said Jesus, Mary, and Joseph. Not good enough to promote violence like that.
Right.
Terrible. Okay, guys, we got a conversation coming up next with Anna, and then her and I are both back for the postgame. We have wonderful stories, including dunking on Ben Shapiro. Don't miss it. TYT.com/join.
of the C word.
I think it's offensive coming from a guy, like for me. I'll never use it, but I do think it's a little bit hot when girls say it.
I can't breathe. I'm trying to.
You bastards. You bastards. Okay, this show's fun and all, but you can't use deep fakes. That's not real. Okay, you fake the footage.
I'm Brett. I would like to refer to this segment as the Do I Still Have This Talent show. So I want to see if I can play harmonica without my hands. I don't know why I have that. Nothing's gonna be more impressive than that. I can also spin a basketball on my finger. While drinking, I'm gonna spin a basketball on my finger while drinking apple juice. You can do this, dude. It's also flat. I don't know if that helps or hurts. And it seems to be somewhat wobbly. Ta-da! Nope, I don't know how to do this one. This one's a fail. Nope. Oh God, I'm so mad.
The Monsanto Corporation continues to sell an herbicide called Roundup. You should know that recent studies have linked this commercial herbicide to a significant increase in non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. A diagnosis of this type of cancer can be devastating to you and your family, while Monsanto continues to profit from these sales. If you or a loved one were exposed to Roundup at work or at home and then developed non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, you might be entitled to financial compensation, and you have a right to take action now.
You know, old school was pitched to me from Cenk. It'll just be me, you, Jesus, Ben, and maybe Michael. And we're like, okay, cool. I can do that every week. As you can see, me, Jesus, Ben.
When you make the order, it says, don't exceed $20.01. So I'll just order literally anything to get it as close to that as I possibly can.
I'm sorry that I ordered $45 worth of food and got an email saying, sir, would you like to rethink that? What are you talking about?
I was in hell. I was just like, oh my God, the theater's empty, nobody's here. Everyone on screen keeps f***ing cursing. Why did I let this happen? And the whole thing looks like it was shot through a glass of milk. My mom's gonna be so mad.
If you're looking for a heart attack, the short way, baby.
Wrong. I did put mayonnaise on it. I'm the most in shape, overweight person you'll find.
That's right.
He was like, why didn't you answer my call? I called you 39 times.
Yuck. But what makes you stop right before 40? You know, what makes you say, nah, man, I ain't doing that no more. I'm cool.
And I called you back on the air. And I was like, okay, Kevin Smith, big shot. What the f***? You said you'd come on and you didn't come on.
I'm sure I took that very well.
Yeah, you did. You called me back the next day and said, I thought it was 7 a.m. And there's now deep fake porn. I don't know if you guys have heard of this.
Heard of it? I just had some in the car.
I'll tell you who I'm not f***ing, Ben Mankiewicz. Have you guys ever felt that?
Not ever.
And now it's just the three of us.
This is the intimate hour.
By the way, the last half hour of this, we're not even rolling.
Fair enough.
Easily.
See, I watch movies.
I'm done with both of you.
Once Craig starts laughing, I can't stop. And I was just gonna ask you about getting high.
Snoogans, Snoochie Boochies.
And members, of course, you can get the whole damn thing. TYT.com, join and free trial. I'm old school with the old folks.
Good.
John, come back.
Welcome to The Conversation. I'm your host, Anna Kasparian, and joining us today is Morgan Harper, who is a congressional candidate in Ohio's 3rd District. She also helped us host an episode of The Young Turks fairly recently, a few months ago. Morgan, it's wonderful to have you back on the show.
Thanks so much for having me.
Of course, my pleasure. Just want to let our audience know, I think it's important to be open and honest with everyone. I'm a supporter of your candidate, and I actually did donate money to your candidate, so full disclosure, I want everyone to know that. But I do think it's important to kind of catch up with you and see how your campaign's going. So fill us in, how's everything going?
Things are going really well. I mean, we're actually entering the home stretch here. We have days left in the campaign. And as you know, it's all grassroots. We're not taking any corporate PAC money. So really just trying to rally the resources to make sure that we can build out and execute our ground game and get to as many people in the 3rd district as we possibly can.
Yeah, so you're doing a lot of canvassing, you're doing a lot of the hard work that corporate candidates don't have to do because they have the backing of the DNC. For instance, the incumbent that you're running against had about $1.3 million as of July, and I'm guessing that that amount has increased considerably since then. So since you're not taking corporate PAC money, what is your strategy to compete fundraising wise?
Well, the strategy is people, right? So, I mean, we were actually outraised my opponent by almost $100,000 in the last quarter. And that was just through over 2,500 individuals from across the country, many of whom are, part of the TYT network that are willing to back candidates that know that if we're going to get Washington to prioritize us, to get back in the business of actually having the federal government invest in us, invest in our communities, we have to have politicians that are free of corporate money. And so that's been a tenet of this campaign since day one. It will be with us until March 17th, 2020 when we win. And that's how we get the word out. And then, in addition to that, just being able to talk to people and allow people to become their own surrogates of the campaign and spread the word that we can do this. This is a movement, but we've all got to organize together and make it happen.
I love organize. So has Joyce Beatty, who is the incumbent in Ohio's 3rd district, gone after you in any way? Because one thing that I have noticed, especially when it comes to progressive candidates who are challenging Democrats in primaries, the response from the establishment is pretty brutal, it's pretty vicious, and the attacks get personal. I'm curious if you've had to deal with any of that.
Yeah, I mean, we are up against a machine. And so, when I first launched, I heard all sorts of things that I wouldn't be able to raise any money, that no one would listen or care about this. I had people calling my old employer, threatening me that way when they couldn't get there, trying to convince people locally that I'm not really from here, that I'm just making up my story, all of this stuff. And, these are tactics of people who are scared because they know that if you activate the populace and real people to actually care about politics, well, the machine will start to crumble. And that's exactly what we are going to make happen on March 17th, 2020. And, it's unfortunate that this is where the party and politics has gotten to, but we can redirect this, and that's what we have to do through grassroots campaigns.
So let's talk a little bit about your issues. I know that you discussed them with Cenk Uygur when you were on last time, but I do want to kind of flesh out your policy proposals when it comes to racial justice and housing. Let's start with housing because you raised an important point about how the unemployment rate in Ohio, particularly the district you're running in, is at a historic low. So most people have jobs, but the homelessness has actually skyrocketed. So what's going on behind that, and what is your proposal to solve it?
Well, first, when we hear a statistic like the lowest, historic low unemployment rates, we really have to unpack that. It's like unemployment for who, and what does that employment look like, the quality of the employment. So even if the overall statistic is at 4% or whatever, we have certain neighborhoods where the rate is actually 3 or 4 times that number. And that is including people who, even if they are, have a part-time job or something, or employment that's paying minimum wage, it's not enough to cover expenses. You need to be making almost $18 an hour here in Franklin County to afford a 2-bedroom apartment. So if your minimum wage is getting you to like $9 an hour, that's not even covering your housing, let alone food, utilities, gas to get to that minimum wage job. And that's where you start to see this dynamic of people who are working, who are not able to actually afford rents. I actually just met someone before this interview that was like, I can't believe that people are expecting me on a minimum wage job to afford $1,000 a month for an apartment. this is crazy, right? And so, the housing policies that I'm pushing are an acknowledgement of those realities behind a booming economy, like some would say we have here in Franklin County, that's not hitting everyone. This economy is not working for everyone. So we have to be building more housing that is going to address the needs of people at all levels of income, and also do something to stabilize rents. Because right now we have a situation where, and we've had it for a while, where a landlord property owner can increase rents as much as they want with no repercussions. So you can take someone that is paying $500 an hour and tell them, oh, next year that's going to be $1,500 a month instead of $500 a month, excuse me. And that's not fair. It makes it impossible to predict your expenses. The wages are not keeping up with these housing costs, and we have people that are becoming homeless. And the homeless system also is at its brink.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that Los Angeles is a perfect example of that. And it's frustrating when the solutions that are proposed are usually by politicians who have taken massive donations from developers who aren't really interested in building affordable housing. They're interested in getting contracts by the city or by the state to build housing that usually, is unaffordable for most people, luxury apartments, luxury condos. And so you do see a need to increase the inventory of housing in the district. But since you're not taking corporate PAC money and you're not really corrupted by these donors, you're definitely more trustworthy when you put these proposals out there. Can you talk a little bit about how you would go about increasing the inventory of housing?
Well, so right now, a lot of the tools at the federal level, exactly like you're saying, depend on developers to decide that it's profitable to build housing. Like, for example, the low-income housing tax credit. And as long as that's the system, well, developers will build housing exactly when it makes money for them to do so. It's not going to be profitable to build housing for those that either are not earning income or are earning, low incomes through minimum wage jobs. And so that's where we have to get the federal government back to building housing, which it used to do. And this doesn't have to be a replication of just building projects, for example. It could be mixed income housing that's being built, but we have to acknowledge that these market-based solutions have failed. How do we know it's failed? Because of rising homelessness rates. It's not addressing the reality that everyone in this country, in the 3rd district, deserves a home, and the existing federal toolkit and the efforts at the local level are not getting us there.
So let's talk a little bit about your racial justice proposals, because while reading through what you would want to accomplish as a congresswoman, I noticed that you mentioned reparations. And so reparations can be accomplished in different ways. I'm curious what the details are for your proposal.
Yeah, so I call it systemic reparations because oftentimes when you say reparations, a common refrain will be, well, slavery was a long time ago, or I didn't own slaves, so I don't have any responsibility in dealing with this. And systemic reparations, embedded in that, is an acknowledgement that it's systemic policy that got us to the place of the racial wealth gap, where you have, over $100,000 is the average wealth for a white family in this country, and $9,000 is the average wealth for a black family. And by the way, it's projected to go to 0 by 2053 for the average black family. 0 net wealth after over 400 years in this country. And so we have to see as a society that this was through federal policy for the most part, the denial of home ownership opportunities for black people in this country well into the 21st century and continuing on to some degree. And so, that's where, one, just historically, we have to get on the same page, but I'm offering systemic reparations as an invitation to think boldly about what would remedy this and close the racial wealth gap. That could look like waiving property taxes for homeowners, black homeowners in formerly redlined communities. That could look like, additional available capital resources for starting your own business. That could look like, baby bonds is an idea that's been thrown out there, and, having a higher baby bond level, certain level of capital that would increase and accumulate over the course of a lifetime for a young black child. And so, there's all sorts of ways that we could remedy it, but we have to stop spinning our wheels with studying a problem that has been clearly documented and just get to the work of deciding how we find a solution.
Yeah, I agree with you. Even though Kamala Harris wasn't my preferred Democratic candidate, I did find her proposal for black home ownership super interesting, and I would like to see something like that not just studied. I want to see a case study for it. I want someone to implement it and see how much it actually helps communities out. Because yeah, the systemic racism is a huge problem. And I think when you have candidates who try to simplify it as, oh, we're gonna throw money at a situation, it doesn't really help. I think creating a system that's more equitable for disadvantaged groups makes a lot of sense. And so I love the way that you're approaching this. So final thing that I wanted to talk to you about is the jobs guarantee part of your platform. So how would you approach that?
Yeah, so jobs guarantee, I mean, that's one of the things I love about the Green New Deal and why it's also been part of the platform since day one is we have to address the climate crisis, but in that we have a huge opportunity to create jobs for people, higher paying living wage jobs that will be in the clean sector and other green initiatives that are going to make sure that people also meet their basic needs. And these are jobs that would be available to anyone who is looking for one. Again, it's interesting. I was just talking to someone about that, and their concern was, really interested in the jobs guarantee. It's actually the same person that was complaining about how high the rent is, and even though working can't afford rent here in the 3rd district. And it's like, okay, when jobs guarantee, is that going to be available to me even though I have a felony on my record? And that's one thing I hear about a lot in the 3rd district is making sure that a lot of the programs we're talking about, that returning citizens are going to also have the opportunity to take advantage of these programs. That when we talk about big federal programs, they often have been excluding communities of color. And we have in the Green New Deal a clear statement that no, this type of program is also going to be available and prioritize availability to communities of color. We have to have priority for returning citizens, people who have already paid their time and now are looking to build a stable life in our community. And so, again, it's just, let's just get it done, right? We know what's gonna work to make sure that people have stable lives. We need to have more and more people in Congress that are there free of the corporate money and just in this spirit of accomplishing things and getting it done.
I love it. Morgan Harper, you're a wonderful candidate, and I really appreciate you taking the time to talk about your policy proposals. If you want to learn more about Morgan, you can go to morganharper.org, and you can also donate to her. And again, she's not accepting money from corporate PACs. Go to justicedemocrats.com/Morgan, and you can also volunteer by going to morganharper.org/volunteer. Thank you again, Morgan. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. End of quarter, donate to us. Please.
More power to you.
Thank you so much.
All right, have a good one. All right, we're gonna take a short break, and when we come back, we will have another wonderful guest who's running for California's assembly. So we'll be right back.
We're gonna do a little thing we like to call Weekly World News. Weekly World News. I cull stories from around the globe, stories that aren't covered on the main show or aren't covered enough, and I turn it into a 5-question quiz for Dave and Steve. All right, do we have our answers? A from Dave and C from Steve. And the correct answer is B, an oil tanker that sank off the coast of China. Okay, we have one answer of B and one answer of C. What is the correct answer? It is, of course, A, an airplane wing walking stunt gone wrong. Okay, we have an answer of A from Dave and C from Steve. The correct answer is B. We have an answer of B and C. What is the correct answer in true Weekly World News tradition? It's A.
Come on.
Taking the bear out for ice cream.
That can't possibly be true. We're terrible today. Just terrible.
I often think about the terror that my grandmother was under until she was 8 or 9 years old, and how horrific that experience must have been in this state of discomfort for the benefit of other people.
People will still treat you like you're the problem. That's what we mean when we say living well black. We're just trying to live our best life. We're trying to be the best that we can be. And we're frustrated and tired of people treating us like we're criminals.
The Monsanto Corporation continues to sell an herbicide called Roundup. You should know that recent studies have linked this commercial herbicide to a significant increase in non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. A diagnosis of this type of cancer can be devastating to you and your family, while Monsanto continues to profit from these sales. If you or a loved one were exposed to Roundup at work or at home and then developed non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, you might be entitled to financial compensation, and you have a right to take action now.
You're about to watch some behind the scenes footage of the Young Turks. Ooh. Now these are partial videos. If you want to get all of them, you become a member, go to tyt.com/join, and you'll get all the behind the scenes of me, Anna, John, JR, a little bit reality show like, tyt.com/join, and enjoy this.
You know what you're seeing behind me? Jersey, hold. Watch me flip this camera. However I flip it. Do I flip it like this? No, I just took a picture. I'm bitzing right now.
What?
Behind the scenes.
Oh, okay. For members? I don't have my face on.
She doesn't have her face on, folks. Oh, that's JR's ass right there.
You can't take 5 minutes off, can you?
No, I can't, Johnny Pie. I said it was live stream, but I was lying. It's not a live stream. It's just for members. Bitsy, this is my cat. You know what his name is? Kiki Cat.
Animals are innocent.
Control room and the insanity is obviously there.
Right now, as you can see, I'm directing or tech directing.
I'm so happy to be here.
This is what like a Labor Day beard looks like for Cenk. Man, you're a Young Turks viewer if you recognize me like this.
Such a big fan. Oh, thank you. You are the one person in my life I would love to meet.
What's going on, guys? This is a Bitsy or a BTS or behind the scenes with Hassan Piker, aka Woke Bay.
Oh, hi. I didn't see you there.
I have finished my show, The Damage Report, and now I get into a really awkward time of the day.
When I'm sitting, the control room is right there. So I can see Bart.
This is the Pittsburgh office, by the way. Referred to often as the boiler room.
You see how it's ripped? Is it super unprofessional to wear that at a business meeting? Or am I like cool, rebel?
I just finished doing the power panel and I'm fired up.
What do you do for TYT?
Not a whole lot.
If you're frantically tweeting at us that something's broken, thank you, because I'm fixing it.
And thank you for being a TYT member.
Super last thing, because there's always got to be a super last thing. Oh, that was disastrous. This has been behind the scenes, behind the scenes.
Welcome to the conversation. Joining us now is Natasha Gupta. Natasha Gupta is running for as a candidate for California's Assembly in the 25th District. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hi, thank you for having me.
So just reading through your platform and your policies and what inspires you, I find you to be such a fascinating candidate, especially as a child of immigrants, someone who didn't really feel like had a lot of representation in the political world. You were inspired by Obama's campaign when you were volunteering. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Sure. So first of all, thank you very much for having me. District 25 is such a diverse district that covers Fremont, Newark, Milpitas, San Jose, and Santa Clara. And I think what you're getting at there, being a child of immigrants, and as you know, as my experience on the Obama campaign kind of showed me, is that just like this district, I believe that we are such an amalgamation of so many different kinds of stories that all share a common goal, that we all want to see a district that is more equitable and equal for all, that we see right now rising income inequality in California that really is capitalized by this district, which is the heart of Silicon Valley. In terms of what I was inspired by in Obama's campaign and what has propelled me forward in this race is that a lot of people right now, especially in the absence of a lot of compassion and empathy that we see in our dialogue, are looking, frankly, for, once again, that message of hope. And frankly, the message to believe in a bigger California dream for all of us that doesn't just resolve the existing crises that we have with homelessness, with the cost of education, with the cost of living, and frankly, the ability to dream of a better life, but the ability to dream even bigger than that. And we see for so many families across District 25 that the basic struggle to even keep up with rent, the basic struggle to even be able to conceive of sending your kids to college debt-free is something that has choked that dream for so many people, and why we need to channel that in not just running a campaign that is against something of the rising income inequality that we see, but running a campaign that is for something.
So let's talk a little bit about what politics in California is like, because as a Californian, I was born and raised here, I've lived here my entire life. While there are a lot of Democrats in office in California, the fact of the matter is many of them are corrupt. Many of them have real estate developers in their pocket. And so if you win, you're gonna have to deal with a lot of that. And so how do you propose to kind of overcome the corrupt lawmakers in this state in order to accomplish some of your policies?
You're absolutely right, Anna. And the truth of the matter is that running as an outsider myself, and as someone who my day job is working in technology, I'm not from politics, and I have seen how the system in and of itself, even to run for office, is set up such that outsiders are not encouraged to run. Did you know, by the way, it takes almost $10,000 just to be able to file your name on the ballot, to be able to put a candidate statement in both the counties that this district covers, which is Alameda County and Santa Clara County. And on top of that, all of the fees that are associated with sending in your paperwork, with just basically getting your name in the door. And at a point in our time where this is something that prevents a lot of single mothers from running. It prevents teachers from running. It prevents a lot of ordinary Americans from running where we don't have $10,000 like that just to spend on a political run, just to get our name in the book. Look at how from the outset the system is set up that way. And what I believe that we need to do to truly overhaul the absolute corruption of our career politicians is we need to have publicly financed elections. We need to undo a lot of these arbitrary fees that even to just go in front of an endorsement committee for the Democratic Party, having to pay $250 just to be considered for an endorsement. Imagine how many people that are from actual ordinary everyday people that could actually conceive of running if we did not complicate this process and from a monetary standpoint, make it inconceivable for them to run. That is the first step in what we're going to have to do just from the pure rules standpoint to get ordinary people into office. Then after that, what we have to do is we have to elect people that are actually going to the communities, not just for the photo op, but they are actually interacting with the constituents they're serving to represent. In our campaign, we actually got on the ballot by rallying 1,000 people to sign our petition to get on the ballot, as opposed to just paying the filing fee and having our name show up, because we believed in earning that vote in our community across all the 5 cities in our district. And this led to many people telling us, this is the first time in 30 or 40 years that I've been living here that anybody running for office has even asked me for my vote. That's what's going to force that level of accountability and, frankly, a certain level of realism when we hear our politicians actually speak truth to what the constituents are saying about the most pressing issues that they have.
Definitely. I mean, the way the system is set up, it discourages the so-called non-elite to run, and it's a system for the wealthy. And if you have the money, you have the upper hand in being able to run in these elections. And so I love that you mentioned the importance of publicly financed elections. That's obviously part of your platform. But let's talk a little bit about other views you have, including healthcare, homelessness, housing. When it comes to housing, that is a huge issue in the state of California. How do you propose to combat homelessness and unaffordable housing?
I think when we talk about the issue of homelessness, so much of the conversation has surrounded measures that increase the supply of housing and affordable units and programs to ensure that we can shelter our homeless. But there has not been enough conversation surrounding funding and adequate services for mental health and helping our homeless get access to job retraining, job opportunities. And what I have found that is missing from the community dialogue that you hear from folks on the ground, for example, in the city of Fremont, where they are planning a navigation center, is that much of the community was in fact very dismayed that while there was a lot of emphasis on funding being focused on shelter, there wasn't any sort of transparency from local city officials on what would be the health and facility services for those that had been displaced. How are we going to ensure that we don't just shelter our homeless, we create a sense of community for them, we create frankly, a pathway for them to thrive. I have proposed that on a statewide level, we need to tackle this in a similar fashion that states like Utah tackled homelessness, where they had an initiative that for every displaced person, we will not just shelter, we will assign them social workers. We will ensure that there is some pathway towards rehabilitation as well as sheltering. And that is what we need to do on a statewide level. We need to not just ensure supply of units, we need to ensure that for every person, there is access to services that help them desperately get the help that they need.
Yeah.
And with regards to affordable housing, the other aspect that I really don't see at all covered in the statewide dialogue surrounding this is that for a lot of young millennials like myself who are looking at owning their own home, we need to increase the programs that are available for us to encourage home ownership with a lot of young professionals that are going to the workplace. I believe that the cost of college has a huge part in explaining why is it that statistically, even across our whole country, home ownership among folks in 20 to 30 is very, very low compared to the past. And so comprehensively, what we need to do to attack the issue of homelessness and affordable housing is also attacking the larger cost of living, ensuring statewide our public colleges are not putting our students into debt, ensuring statewide that you have access to affordable transit so that you are not having to have your entire livelihood just revolve around how you get to work every day financially. That's what we're going to have to do to comprehensively tackle this issue.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you touched on so many different things there. And I love that you mentioned the program in Utah, because you're right, the program in Utah was a huge success. However, in recent years, the homeless population has actually skyrocketed further in Utah. And so, look, there's the solution for a problem, which is just provide housing, and I think that's so important. But there's also a huge underlying problem, which is affordability, cost of life. You touched on that a little bit, but I wanted to get your thoughts on wages, because while California is actually pretty good when it comes to increasing wages for its workers, it still hasn't caught up with the price of housing. So how do you propose to tackle that?
You're absolutely right. And in fact, in our own city, in Santa Clara, the city government decided that an entire street we're going to designate on El Camino Real to keep below market rate housing. It'll be fixed at units that are $300,000 to $400,000 per year. And when you resell the unit, it is fixed at that price. So you cannot sell that and turn that and flip it for a profit per se. And that frankly gets to the heart of the issue of why, even though with wage growth, there are some groups that have been able to be mobile and to afford housing in California, there's a whole segment that has been left out of that prosperity. And so programs like what we did in the city of Santa Clara, if we did that statewide, ensuring, for example, that at least 20% of new units that are built in any given metropolitan city in California by mandate have to be housing that is affordable and you have to only restrict that to certain income groups, that could be a huge step forward, right? Now, with regards to what you asked about wage growth, I think that there is a larger question also. Are we frankly granting equal access to every group for them to have educational opportunity that will allow them to be mobile, that will allow them to progress? Frankly, we're not realistic in the discussion that even if we offer something like free community college, if you're already working 2-3 jobs just to stay afloat, how is it you're going to conceive of going to night school to perhaps get further technical education to increase your skills and perhaps get a better job, right? So that is a very nuanced conversation we have to have with regards to wage growth. I personally would propose that we ensure every employer makes sure that there are subsidies that they provide if their employees want to get further career technical education, such that they're able to make that jump that without having to sacrifice obligations towards family financially, that they have have adequate childcare services that are subsidized by our state to ensure that this is not placing an unfair burden on single mothers to have to choose between their career or their children, something which has historically held back economically disadvantaged groups, by the way. So all of these initiatives, while they're small steps, they can do a lot in improving the situation of wage growth here in California.
All right. Well, Natasha Gupta, it seems like you have an incredibly comprehensive platform, and I encourage our viewers to check it out. Go to Gupta2020.com to learn more. Again, Gupta2020.com, and you can also donate by going to Gupta2020.com/donate. Or if you're interested in volunteering, you can go to Gupta2020.com/join-the-fight. Thank you again, Natasha. It was a pleasure speaking with you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you so much for watching The Conversation. The post game is next.
Squirrel. Then one foggy Christmas Eve, the Trumpster came to say,
You know, Rudolph, I've been on a worldwide search, and I hear your qualifications are just right to guide my sleigh tonight.
Remember when Donald Trump was just a clown?
Yeah.
Now he's a killer clown that haunts us all.
Yeah.
He went from bozo to it.
I just want this era to be over.
Yeah, well, as a friend of mine once said, tick, 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 tick. I haven't said that in a while. It looks bad right now, man.
I just don't want to stop feeling embarrassed on the world stage. But let's talk about fun stuff.
Yep. Oh man. March 4th or May 13th, there are going to be a lot of stories. Okay, anyway, I'll leave it at that. So speaking of stories, let's go to fun stories. So I took Pro to Star Wars over the weekend, and then I went with my other nephew, Murat. And so it was the three of us, and we're walking back from the movie, and somehow we got into a conversation about religion, and then I paused and asked Pro, what religion do you think you are? Or what religion do you believe in, or what religion are you in? Something along those lines, okay? Now, it's a funny question to ask your son, because he's presumably in the same religion you are.
Right.
But except I grew up in a Muslim family, but I'm agnostic. My wife is Chinese, never had a religion in the first place. And her—
How does she know what's good and bad?
I don't know, she's a wild, chaotic person that does evil things all the time because she didn't grow up in a religion, so she had no moral order at all. People like literally believe stuff like that.
Yep.
Anyway, so then I asked my 9-year-old son, what religion do you believe in? And he had a very simple answer: Christmas.
Pro gets it. Pro gets it. Yeah.
Not Christianity, Christmas. And I said, Pro, your religion has a name. It's called capitalism. Fortunately or unfortunately, that is what it is. I mean, Christmas, what? Like the pinnacle of capitalist invention.
100%, yeah.
Right? None of it is in the Bible. None of it. The pine tree comes from Germanic pagan tradition.
Yeah.
It's the winter solstice. Santa Claus is clearly not in the Bible. There's no such thing as Santa Claus in the Bible, nor does he wear his red suit, nor did they know anything about the North Pole. There are no reindeers. None of it is in the Christian religion. In fact, in the Bible, Jesus is born around April. Okay. It was a bunch of marketers who were like, how do we sell more stuff?
Yep.
Okay, and then they invented this miraculous thing called Christmas that has both delighted and bedeviled us ever since.
Yeah, so let's talk about gifts.
Okay.
Okay, this year, okay, so for a few years, I like stopped caring about adults. And I'm like, I don't have time or the resources to get every adult in my life a gift. So I stopped, and I would only get gifts for the kids. And the gifts for the kids were, I made their parents open a college fund and I contribute to the college fund, okay? This year, I don't know, something changed. I was like, I want to be creative. And so the gifts that I gave, and honestly, giving the gifts is way more fun than getting them, because like, I don't need anything. Like, I'm totally fine. Like, it's just more stuff and it's more clutter, right? Little things that are heartfelt and sentimental, that stuff I like. Like JR got me one of the best gifts I've ever gotten, okay? JR got me this, every time I walk Charlie, I have to wash his paws because he sleeps in the bed with us. And so I don't want dirty paws in the bed, but it's a pain in the butt. And so he found this gadget where it's like it looks like a cup, but it has like brushes inside, and so you fill it with water and like soap if you want, and then you put the dog's paw in there, and then you just like kind of twist it and whatever, and the bristles will clean the paws.
Yeah, this reminds me why I don't have a dog. Yep.
It's the most thoughtful gift. Like he knew that it was a pain in the butt for me to have to wash his paws, and he got me, it was awesome. So I love stuff like that, but like I don't need fancy, expensive gifts. For Christian, I got him he uses like this backpack, and it's fine, but he's a man now. Like don't use a school backpack. So I got him a briefcase. And yeah, like a really nice briefcase, and he was like confused by it, but I think he liked it.
Okay. Is it like old school ones where you carry it on your side, or can you put it over your
It has
shoulder?
a strap that you can,
okay.
yeah.
God.
So
Okay.
it's a black leather, I mean, it's a laptop bag, but you can call it a briefcase, yeah. It's really nice. And then for my brother and sister-in-law, I had taken really nice photos of, I love the B-roll right now, it's so good. I bought a really nice camera because I thought I would like vlog from home, and I haven't done that yet. But I used the camera to take really nice pictures of my nieces. And so I took them, I blew them up and framed them. And like they totally loved that. Like the sentimental stuff rocks, it's great.
Yeah. So another Christmas tradition in the Uyghur household is when Hassan and Murad complained that the other one got better presents than they did.
Yeah, they're a little different from me.
They're 28 and 26. Anyway, so look, I mixed bag with presents. Historically, the main present I've gotten in Christmas is socks and underwear.
Everyone needs socks and underwear.
Well, you don't need it every year.
Agree to disagree.
Okay. Anyway, so I'm not allowed to tell you why my wife got me these this time because of internal rules. But I got a scarf and a hat. The hat I could use, but I've gotten a lot of scarves. I don't wear scarves. I'm worried she's watching because my dad's at home, and my dad usually watches the show at like decibel levels where everyone in the family will hear it. Otherwise, I tell you more about Santa, but I'm afraid the kids are watching. Okay, but all right. So the last thing I'll say though is that, but Joy got me, both Wendy and I a present, and it was, she drew this big picture of 6 hearts, and she wrote, "I love you with all my hearts."
Come on.
Okay, no, it's beautiful. I looked at it and I was like, I hope, like I'm a mess, like it's hard to keep track of everything. But I'm like, I want to frame this and I want to keep this forever.
Yeah, you should.
Yeah, it was great. It was great. Yeah.
I'm telling you, man, the sentimental stuff, that's the
100%, 100%. Yeah. Although it would have been nice if my parents had gotten me an Atari back in the day. But I say I've let it go, but apparently I haven't. Okay. So, all right, we're moving on. Mel Brooks. So for those of you who haven't heard the story, the reason Mel Brooks stopped in like 14 years ago in the show and broke the story of that he was going to bring Young Frankenstein to Broadway was because we did the shot of this building in Mid-Wilshire back in the day in LA, and we see Mel Brooks walking around in the hallways. We're like, what the fuck? Okay, this is a rando small building in Mid-Wilshire. Why is this massive celebrity just like loitering in the hallways, right? And I'm like, you know me, I'll approach anybody, right? So Cenk Weiger, he'll hit anybody. So I walk up to Mel Brooks, I'm like, Mr. Brooks, what brings you here? He's like, oh, hey, how you doing? How do you like the building? And I'm like, oh, I like it fine. He's like, what brings me here is I own it. And I was like, oh, that's really cool. And so LA.
I didn't know that.
Oh, you didn't know that story?
Is he the one that you called and yelled at really loud because of the construction that was happening during the live show?
Remember that? Could you imagine if that was Mel
Jake,
Brooks?
No, hold on. First of all, I can't imagine that was Mel Brooks. But no, you never get really angry. Like you'll get angry on a story or whatever, but that's not really Cenk being angry. That was the first time, and I think there might have been one other time after that where you went nuclear.
Yeah.
That shit was scary.
Yeah, you don't want to see me nuclear.
No.
You guys think you've seen me nuclear, you haven't.
No.
No, but I know some dudes who don't have an off button on nuclear. I have a massive off button.
Yeah, he does.
I never go to it unless it gets like really triggered, right? Like, but that once a decade, okay?
Yeah, and to be fair to you, you had called the building's management, I don't even know how many times, and begged them to not do construction during showtime. And it just kind of got to a point, and they were so dismissive of you. So it just got to a point where you like lost it and it was bad.
Yeah, they were drilling right on top of our heads during the show. And it's a radio show on top of a video show.
Yeah.
So we just can't do the show when they're going, bah, 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 bah. And their indifference to us is what drove me nuts.
Yeah.
Because like the whole world was indifferent to us.
Yep.
And then we're paying those sons of bitches, and then they were. But I never connected the landlord to Mel Brooks until you just mentioned it.
Yeah.
That's true, the landlord was Mel Brooks. It wasn't, the guy I was yelling at was not Mel Brooks. It was
You
a
yelled at a voicemail. No one answered the phone. I remember.
No, it was a real guy.
Oh, it was?
Oh, I don't.
No,
Maybe I
no
misremember.
No one. I remember, whoever you called didn't answer the phone. You left a voicemail. I remember that.
Oh, that's so funny. Okay, I don't know. But somebody was getting it that day. Okay. Anyway, it was a manager. Could you imagine Mel Brooks? He's like, I think I was on that guy's show. Anyway, we could ask him because the second part of the story is who on Young Turks is friends with Mel Brooks. Well, having nothing to do with that story at all, at a much later date, Ben wound up becoming really good friends with Mel Brooks.
Of course he did.
Of course he did. So he has lunch with him on a fairly regular basis, I think almost weekly.
Wow.
Yeah, and so that's pretty freaking neat. I don't know if I was supposed to say that, but I'm proud of Ben. I think that's like a really cool thing. Mel Brooks has his squad, okay? And they like took in the youngster Mankiewicz. They're like, come on, Manky. All right, and you know he loves that. You know, it's like, come on, who wouldn't love that, especially if you're Ben? So it's pretty neat.
Ben's a little bit of a celebrity, kinda.
Oh no, definitely.
Yeah.
Like for, Ben gets recognized more for being on TYT than he does for being on Turner Classic Movies.
Obviously, we're bigger celebrities than he is, but
no. But the reason I bring that up is because, for TYT, it doesn't count anywhere else. Like it's just like you guys are excited to see him. That's awesome, and he loves and appreciates that. But it doesn't go like since the rest of the media hates us, it goes no further than that. But when he's recognized for being on TCM, respect comes with that.
Oh, for sure.
Do you see what I'm saying?
Of course I do. Yeah.
And so like Bruce Springsteen will do an interview with him because of Turner Classic Movies, not because of TYT.
Right.
Do you see what I'm saying?
I do.
And Bruce, and I use that as an example because Bruce is a great guy. It's not Bruce's fault. It's Bruce's publicist, et cetera, who's like, oh, Turner Classic Movies, you are famous. We will bring on Bruce Springsteen. Like if he went as TYT host, they'd be like, no, Bruce is not coming on your show. Okay, to be fair, Ben has interviewed Quentin Tarantino and Jodie Foster here, but they came for Young Turks. And we thought it was right to have Ben interview them.
Oh, they did come for Young Turks.
They came for Young Turks.
We didn't like pull a tricky Pazicki and say like,
no, not at all, not at all.
Nice.
In fact, Tarantino was wonderful and I happened to not be here that day, and he said, "Oh, that's a shame. I wanted to meet Cenk," which is like an enormous, unbelievable compliment.
Sounds like true romance. I know some movies.
She does. Quentin, if you're watching, she knows some movies.
I actually love Tarantino movies.
Yeah, but Quentin, if you're watching, forget about her. Wait till you meet Bart. He's watched your movies, what, 7,000 times?
Yeah.
I've seen Once Upon a Time in Hollywood 5 times.
Oh, wow.
5 times in the theaters. Gratuitous, let's be honest. Okay, all right, last thing. Well, we got 2 fun stories for you guys. Last thing that I promised you on air, the sub cave. Okay, the Edwin and Anna both made a good point. A sub cave that I described where you watch football with the guys and eat subs, that's just a man cave.
Yep.
Okay, it's true, but I kind of want it to be spectacular. Like I want us to have nice recliners. I know this is total man cave stuff, right? But I don't want to like, it'd be nice it was like, you know what the thing about the wine cave? I don't know if any of you thought of this. Like, I don't know if that's what Trader, probably not. But for me, what I liked about it was how cool it looked. I don't mean like neat, I mean temperature-wise. Like for some reason, it looked like it would be a brisk temperature in there and you'd have to have a little bit of a sweater on.
Your obsession with cold temperature is weird, and also for someone who works with you and has to deal with a cold studio, annoying, like very annoying.
Yeah,
like you love it freezing.
No, I don't love it freezing. I love it like 60 to 65 degrees, okay? And you gotta put on a little bit of a sweater or a sweatshirt.
60 degrees.
You go down to your
crazy.
sub cave. Oh, you have a nice sub. Nobody's bothering you. Your wife's not bothering you about how cold it is because it's a sub cave, okay? And you're watching football, and a couple of the guys come over, and and you just shoot the shit, and nobody's haranguing you for anything, right? There's no Twitter. Twitter's not allowed in the sub cave.
Yes.
Okay.
No, I love the sub cave. Can I come? Am I allowed?
Yeah. No. Yeah.
Okay.
You are, of course. And so, it feels so good. See, it looks like it would be a cool temperature.
You know what it looks like in there? It looks like an Armenian banquet hall.
That also sounds great.
No, but
I mean, you know how much I love Armenian banquets.
Armenian banquet halls, Armenian parties in those banquet halls are amazing. Like the food, the music, all of that's great, right? The decor it's too much.
Too much.
It's way too much. Like so elaborate and like embellishments everywhere, and it's like just relax with the sparkle and the glitter. And like,
there's like the Persians, Armenians, Russians, and Trump. Like a little too obsessed with the glitz and the gold, and let's bring it down.
Lots of gold, lots of chandeliers.
Uyghur criticizes Persians and Russians.
Clip it.
Anyway, so that's just my fantasy of it. I don't even know what else to put in it other than subs, football, and cold temperature. That's all I need, and friends. That's it.
Yeah.
To add to the temperature thing, a fridge that's freezing cold. So your Cokes and your beers are like at 33 degrees. Yes. Okay. God, that sounds so good. This is why people want to have money. Okay, let's just keep it real.
And I'm mad at rich people who don't appreciate it.
Oh, 100%. We've said this a billion times on the show. But if you're wealthy and you don't wake up with a smile like this every day, you're an idiot. You're rooting. You're the worst.
Yes.
At least have the decency to enjoy the fuck out of it. Otherwise, you totally wasted it, and it's
just not fair to us.
It pisses us off more.
Yeah. Let us enjoy your money then.
Yeah, then give it to us. We'll do a sub cave. We'll do 100 sub caves for your one wine cave, and we'll have fun.
Yes.
Unlike you.
Yes.
Anyway,
all right,
let's go for it.
All right, let's do some stories. So two that I wanted to share with you. First, Nike and Colin Kaepernick. So Nike came out with its latest Colin Kaepernick themed shoe. It's the True to 7 Air Force One shoe. And Air Force One shoes are pretty pricey and popular to begin with, but this one is special because it is Kaepernick themed, and it has Kaepernick's face literally embroidered on the back of it, right? So we have pictures to show you what it looks like. Really cool looking shoe. Anyway, sold out immediately, okay? So it's not available, it's $110. And the reason why I wanna share this story with you is because number one, the conservative boycott on Nike doesn't matter, it didn't work. The shoe went on the market on December 23rd, and the website now lists it as sold out. Two retailers, Shoe Palace and Jimmy Jazz stores, will be donating their profits to charitable causes. So I love that there's a charitable component of this. But look, do you think Nike did this to make a political statement? No, they did it because they knew the shoe would sell out.
Yeah.
And with all the terrible news out there, this is like a little bit of a glimmer of hope because there's a market for people who want to support a company that is supporting a man who had political conviction and principle and stood up for something.
So Colin Kaepernick is a legend. That's why everything sells out in the minute that he's involved. I'm gonna give you more numbers in a second. He's a living legend right now to so many young people in this country. Not to, unfortunately, a lot of older generation. Not all, but a big chunk of the older generation. It's like, the conservatives, of course, is what I'm talking about. Yeah, that guy, he stood up to the cops. He should know better, okay? When they shoot unarmed black people, that's apparently a thing to be celebrated rather than derided. And so the right wingers, especially the older ones that watch Fox News, loathe Kaepernick. But guess what? They don't buy sneakers, okay? And the younger generation loves Kaepernick. Look, I'm gonna give you the numbers now, and then I'm gonna turn to make the most important point. So they featured Kaepernick in an ad campaign, Nike did, in September of 2018, so towards the end of last year. And then they do the boycotts, the conservatives do the boycotts. Literally the most ineffective boycott in world history. You know how much Nike shares are up this year? 35%.
That's bananas.
35%, okay. The quarter after they did the ad, their shares went up 9.2% that quarter, okay? You know what the equivalent of that 9.2% is back then? $6 billion. Their stock market cap went up $6 billion after that ad. You know what happened in the beginning though? This is really interesting. So they do the ad, and since most of the people on Wall Street are older media obsessed influencers in a sense, right? They're the old school. They're, watch MSNBC, Fox News, CNN, etc. And so they were like, oh, I do declare people don't like Colin Kaepernick. And so on the first day, their stock went down. Okay.
Yep.
First couple of days, 3 days, etc. Right.
Good time to buy.
Yeah, they're like, that's right. And so they were like, oh no, everyone I know thinks that black people should be shot. Bravo, cops. I can't believe Nike made such a drastic mistake. Especially because they thought, oh, they're going progressive. There's nobody in the country who's progressive. Young people aren't progressive. This is never gonna work. And then sales skyrocketed. And the thing about Wall Street is numbers are numbers, right? So once sales skyrocketed, that's when the stock price went up 9%. And then that's when they made the $6 billion in market cap, let alone the 35% the next year, which then even more greatly increased Nike's stock price, valuation, et cetera, et cetera. So I tell you that one, because we've won, and Fox News knows this, and that's why they're in a panic. With the younger generations, they're all progressives. It's already over. It's already over. Good night, Irene. Bye-bye. You can do anything you like. We won the media wars. We won the culture wars. We're just running out the clock now. Okay, you're on borrowed time. And the mythology that younger people get more conservative as they get older is not borne out by any stat or any study. They've studied 100 times. It's actually total mythology. It's not true at all. So conservatives, it was not nice knowing you, but your days are numbered. I don't care that this mainstream media be like, oh no, that's not true. I know a lot of people conservative. I know you do. Okay, but you don't know or care about young people at all. Anyway,
yeah, look,
okay.
I got to add something to kind of reinforce what you're saying. Look, there is a reason why the Republican Party suppresses the vote. Yeah. Because they can't win based on their ideas. Conservatives don't have popular ideas. Otherwise, they would be in favor of free, open elections. Yeah. But they go out of their way to make it incredibly difficult for people to vote because otherwise they'd get elected out of office.
Yeah, and so all that is true. But now I'm getting to the main point, which is think about how racist the NFL owners are. Because whichever team signs Kaepernick, it's a gold mine. And now they know it's a gold mine. Before Nike did their ad campaign, they might have thought, oh no, we'll lose people who are season ticket holders. We'll lose people who buy our merchandise. Now, it is impossible to think that. You couldn't be stupid enough to think that given the overwhelming evidence to the contrary. So now even with this shoe coming out, his jerseys would fly off the shelves like you wouldn't believe. Everybody in the country would buy a Kaepernick jersey. I mean, so the NFL owners are saying, I am going to turn down tens of millions of dollars, maybe hundreds of millions, because I'm that racist. And every football fan in the country knows, I don't care how conservative you are, that Kaepernick is among the top 96 quarterbacks in the league, because they go at least 3 deep on quarterbacks. There are starting quarterbacks that Kaepernick can beat out. You can debate that, but the guy took him to the Super Bowl. I mean, I'm not gonna get back into that debate. Everyone knows he belongs in the league, everyone. So you're keeping him out of the league, even though he is good enough, athletic enough to be in the league. And you know you would make unbelievable money if you put him on your team. But you say, and what is this protest about? It's not about the military, it's not about any of that. It's about please do not shoot unarmed black men. So you are so deeply racist that idea offends you so much. My God, what are we gonna do if the cops can't kill unarmed black men? That you turn down tens of millions of dollars in profit. That's how racist the NFL owners are. And later, people will say, Kaepernick was a legend. They'll write about him in the history books. The money he turned down, the controversy, the death threats, all the stuff that he had to endure, and he did it based on principle, and they'll revere him. I guarantee it. I guarantee it. It's happened over and over again. 1968 Olympics, Muhammad Ali, etc. But we're now in the middle of it, and still the NFL owners are like, nope, not one of us is gonna have him in the league because we're all united in the one thing that unites us, our racism. That's real.
Speaking of racists, Ben Shapiro, there was a video that resurfaced. Actually, not a video. Back in 2015, Shapiro went on this weird rant against rap music, specifically a song by Future that features Drake. And so we're gonna show you the video animation that's making its rounds on Twitter. I just wanna share it with you because it's funny and it always boggles my mind that he's like considered or was considered the cool kid in conservative circles. I know, right? All right, so let's watch.
The artist's name is Future, as opposed to his brother past and his sister present. The song is called Where Ya At, and it features Drake. No, not Sir Francis Drake. Of course, both of those, they're given names. And I can guarantee there will be some grammatic failures in this song. That's not English. I thought we were supposed to speak a common language. I thought the purpose of language is to communicate with one another. Where your ass was at, dog, when N-words wasn't feed me. I mean, how many grammatic errors is that in one phrase? First of all, don't end a phrase in a preposition. Sorry to get anal about this, especially in a line about where your ass is, but where your ass was at, dog. Why is there dog in the song? I'm completely unaware as to what canines have to do with anything. Clearly enriching the culture, making America a greater, more solid, moral place every single day, our popular culture.
You know, I thought that he was being at least somewhat tongue-in-cheek, a quarter kidding, because, I mean, the reference to the dog and the canine and Sir Francis Drake, etc. But at the end, he talks about, what happened to the moral character of the country, and this 100%. Is degrading our culture. No, he means it. He means it.
Yeah,
it's unbelievable.
No, what's amazing to me, right? Look, rap music, if it's not your thing, then that's fine, but it's storytelling. It is a way of storytelling, right? Now, not all rap music is the same, but Kendrick Lamar, for instance, right? You listen to his album beginning to end, and it's a story of his life. I'm specifically talking about his first album, and it gives you insight into a life, a community. It gives you a different perspective on something that maybe you haven't personally experienced. And I think that's important. Learning other people's stories is important. So there's value in that. And Ben Shapiro doesn't give a shit about anyone else's story. And he runs around talking about morality. This is the guy who talked about Arabs supposedly living in open sewage, right? Like, no, you're immoral. Like, all he does is judge other people, judge the way they live their lives. He dedicated an entire book to being anti-porn.
You know who writes a whole book about being anti-porn?
Someone who's like slapping the salami all day, right?
I didn't want to go there.
I know. Okay. I'm not running for Congress. Clip it. I don't care. All right, so whatever.
Okay. Someone who is definitely not anti-porn.
Yeah.
Okay, that's who writes that book. All right, so guys, I can't believe he was serious there, but he is. So then I'll address it seriously. He's like, the grammar. This is not the serious part yet. What kind of grammar is that? Yeah, because Bob Dylan didn't take any license with grammar, right? Every poet in the world didn't take license with grammar. So he would have looked at Walt Whitman and be like, well, I don't really know that those are really blades of grass. And and there are really no sweaty tooth madmen. Your tooth cannot sweat. So this Walt Whitman guy, I don't know what this poetry is about, really. I thought we were supposed to have a common language, but these poets are driving me crazy. But all the way back to Shakespeare, the reason why there's a phrase called taking Shakespearean license with the English language is because Shakespeare would flat out make up words. He made up a lot of words. And in a sense, he was a rapper of his time. But why? Now we look at Shakespeare as like, oh, very sophisticated. Back then, no, he was pop culture. And he was incredibly popular. People would go to his plays, and it was commoners who went to his plays because they were funny, they were different, and he took license with the material. And he did things that were bold and radical and different. And so the Ben Shapiros of the time, I'm sure were like, oh, this William Shakespeare, he's the worst. He will not stand up to the test of time. Oops. He's ruining our culture. Oops. He is our culture. And so is Drake. And so are all these rappers. They are the popular culture, and that's what drives you crazy.
100%. I got to give you one of his tweets. This is from January 8th, 2012. He said, "Fact, rap isn't music, and if you think it is, you're stupid."
I mean, loser of losers. If anyone that's young looks up to this guy, like, oh, that's true. You know what? Rap has wrong grammar. I am against rap. It is stupid. Whereas white music is smart. Good luck, brother. Good luck, man. Because you're gonna need porn. Don't be anti-porn. You're gonna need it. So you aren't gonna get any girls at all, ever, if you have that kind of attitude. Other than just being like a bad person in general, who goes around moralizing about what you perceive to be other people's culture? By the way, again, bad news for you. It's actually all of our culture. Okay, great news for us because it's interesting, it's different, it's bold, it rebels against society, and that's why you don't like it. There's a lot of people that it speaks to because we want to rebel against society and the old order that you represent. And you want to keep people down, and rap is the opposite of that, and that's why you can't stand rap.
Yep. I don't have anything else to add to that. That was good.
Thank you. Yeah. Last thing I'll add is you have it in the rundown. Paul Joseph Watson, another clown, wrote, "The right is starting to get better at comedy, and it's making lefties nervous."
Wrong again, Bob. I've seen that tweet nervous,
Paul.
I love their perspective or their perception of us and like what triggers us and like what keeps us up at night. Yeah. I'm up at night thinking about how scary it is that conservatives are really starting to own us in comedy.
They don't know anything, man.
To be fair, I have laughed quite a bit at Alex Jones.
Well, I've laughed at a lot of them, but not because they intended it.
Right.
All right, anyway, yes, good luck with all that. Hey, Ben, I think you're gonna win over rap any day now, okay? You versus rap, it's a real tight battle. All right, I'm gonna leave it. Okay. All right, guys, we'll see you tomorrow.